This young man, after a period of diligent cultivation, finally arrived before the immortal gate. Clearly, Zhang, he was just one step away from transcending the tribulation and becoming an immortal, but in the end, he was just like that by the immortal gate, kicked straight down into the endless void below. When he woke up, the first thing Zhang, he felt was physical pain. Zhang, he had just been sent flying by someone's punch. His whole body fell backward, crashing hard into a flower bed. Then, a beautiful girl ran over, anxiously asking, "Are you okay? Look at this brat. He doesn't even have the appearance of a man. What's so good about him compared to me?" This time, it was a man's voice, and it seemed to be the owner of the previous punch. "Shut up. In my heart, everything about Zhang, he is better than you." This girl still wanted to say something, but by now, Zhang, he had struggled to get up. Although his head was still dizzy, he seemed to roughly understand the current situation. Zhang, he had been reborn. After realizing this, Zhang Yi's first reaction was to turn and hug the girl tightly. The group that had just beaten him saw this and became furious, especially the one called Brother Chang. "How dare you hug Yu Jiao, you bastard! Let go now!" Zhang, he couldn't be bothered with them. He continued to hug the girl tightly and, at the same time, expressed his happiness at seeing her again. Through his words, "Yu Jiao, it's so good to see you again. Zhang, let go of her right now for me." The guy named Li Chong shouted loudly, while starting to crack his knuckles. It seemed like he wanted to punch Zhang Yi again. However, now, Zhang, he was no longer the weak kid from before. Facing the opponent's threat, he wasn't scared at all. On the contrary, he even gave him a chance to disappear before he truly lost his temper. Seeing Zhang Yi's resolute attitude, Li Chong's two underlings were puzzled. That Zhang Yi guy has always been known for being timid. Why is he so stubborn like an ox today? "Zhang Yi, do you dare to talk to Brother Chang again?" "Huh?" Li Chong's two underlings whined. Of course. How could Li Chong be scared off? He bent down and picked up a brick from the ground, then chuckled. "Yu Jiao, it's not that I'm not giving you face, but Zhang Yi forced me. No matter what's said today, I can't spare this brat." Song. Yu Jiao was afraid the brick would seriously injure Zhang Yi, so without thinking, she rushed forward, stretching out her two hands to shield him. However, Zhang Yi playfully poked her cheek, then said, "Song Yu Jiao, just rest assured and let me handle this." Because from now on, it would be his turn to protect her. Seeing the two of them being affectionate right in front of him, how could Li Chong swallow that anger? He ordered his underlings to quickly cripple Zhang Yi's legs. His first underling rushed forward, throwing a punch. But this time, Zhang, he just gently tilted his head to the right and managed to dodge, simultaneously striking a blow straight at his vulnerable abdomen. From behind, another guy rushed over. But even if this group wanted to gang up on him, it would be hard for them to beat Zhang. He used the body of the previous guy as a support, launched himself beautifully, and landed a punch on that guy, sending him flying backward instantly. Seeing his two underlings defeated by Zhang Yi, Li Chong was extremely shocked. Then he started to curse loudly again. "Just a useless brat, and you couldn't even finish him off. What a couple of losers." This time, Li Chong personally stepped up to deal with Zhang Yi, barehanded. Yet this guy still had to carefully hold a brick. But even if he held a knife in his hand, he wouldn't have a chance to hurt him. Zhang Yi grabbed the opponent's collar, then slammed him hard onto the ground. Li Chong only had time to let out a miserable scream, followed by the sound of shattering tiles. The attack just now might have even given him a concussion. Who knows? Zhang Yi aggressively stomped on the opponent's head. Although it didn't cause any more injuries, the humiliating effect was very good. Then, he wiped his glasses clean and put them on, while boldly declaring, "Song Yu Jiao is Zhang Yi's girlfriend. From today on, you guys better stay a bit far away from me, okay? No problem, right? Zhang Yi, let me go quick. Don't forget what kind of person you used to be." Li Chong, although he couldn't even escape from Zhang, was still very stubborn with his words. Unfortunately, this attitude of his could no longer scare Zhang Yi. On the contrary, it made him feel amused. "Oh, so what kind of person was I?" Zhang Yi asked back. But actually, compared to Li Chong, he remembered his own past failures even more clearly. Zhang Yi back then was a complete failure. And the starting point of that failure was when he was young. He had unintentionally interfered in something that wasn't his business. At that time, Zhang Yi had stood up to protect a girl who was being abused, but he didn't expect that because of this, he would get involved with the second-generation chaebol, Sun Jiang. Afterwards, the girl completely denied being abused and continued to date Sun Jiang. As for Zhang Yi, because of this incident, he was completely targeted by him. Then, he was retaliated against. but the opponent was so cruel that he didn't directly touch him, but instead vented his anger on his father and let Zhang Yi witness his own father's 2 legs being broken. From then on, because he implicated his father, causing his legs to be crippled, Zhang Yi was cursed by people and labeled a good-for-nothing. Because of that, his personality also changed completely. No longer confident or brave, he gradually became sullen and timid, and was often bullied by others. During that difficult period, Song Yujiao, like a ray of light, shone into Zhang Yi's dark life. Even though many things happened, she never abandoned him. Just like that, the 2 of them got into Dongshan University together, although life was still quite bad. But because Song Yujiao was by his side, Zhang Yi gradually felt much better. However, cruel fate had not yet let Zhang Yi go there. Back to reality, Zhang Yi finally loosened his grip on Li Chang's group. They quickly ran away. Song Yujiao, after this event, looked at him in a completely different light. Zhang Yi, are you okay? Why are you suddenly so different? No matter how different, I'm still Zhang Yi. Always have been. Zhang Yi replied with a bright smile. Song Yujiao hadn't even had a chance to speak when suddenly a third voice interjected. Oh, that sounds so nauseating. Seeing a group gathered here, I thought there was some commotion. I didn't expect it to be that useless Zhang Yi. All right, Sister Chu, don't say that. Zhang Yi is really a good person. Song Yujiao quickly spoke up. The newcomer's name was Chu Hui. At first glance, one could tell she had no good feelings toward Zhang Yi. Her gaze didn't even linger on him for more than a second. Yujiao, don't waste time here anymore. Did you forget young Master Zhang invited us to a cocktail party tomorrow? Let's go back early and prepare. Chu Hui pushed Song Yujiao, making her look flustered. But I haven't even decided whether to go or not. As soon as Zhang Yi heard about that cocktail party, a terrifying bloody scene immediately appeared in his mind. He turned pale and reached out to pull Song Yujiao back. Wait, Yujiao. Song Yujiao, however, thought Zhang Yi's anxious attitude was because he wanted to go with her, or wanted to stop her. But just then, Zhang Yi suddenly noticed a purple glow on his hand. He immediately recognized it as primordial purple chi. That's right, I've been reborn. I'm not like before anymore. Even if something really happens, I can still prevent it. I can. Getting to know more people is also good. You should go, Yujiao. Zhang Yi retracted his hand and said calmly. Since he had advised her so, Song Yujiao also agreed to go with Chu Hui to that cocktail party tomorrow. Watching her figure disappear towards the dormitory, Zhang Yi clenched his fists tightly. In this life, he would definitely not let that tragedy repeat itself. The human king art is the most powerful force in the universe, combined with the primordial purple chi, which is the fundamental power of the primordial world. It forms the foundation for becoming immortal. Unexpectedly, after being reborn, Zhang Yi was able to quickly comprehend it. This was truly a godsend opportunity. After saying goodbye to Song Yujiao and returning to his room, Zhang Yi immediately began cultivating the human king art with his foundation of primordial purple chi, and the results were quite good. This gave him a strong belief that when this body reached the perfect level of cultivation, he would absolutely become the strongest person in the world. No matter how vicious or powerful the enemy was, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him anymore. However, after a whole day of cultivation, Zhang Yi had only reached the first level of the human king art. That was because the spiritual energy on earth was quite scarce. It seemed that wanting to cultivate to a higher level later on would present quite a few challenges. Zhang Yi was still feeling down about this, when suddenly he felt a strong fluctuation of spiritual energy. Based on this feeling, he immediately guessed there was a traditional martial artist in that direction. Reality proved that Zhang Yi's guess was correct, because in the direction where the spiritual energy fluctuation originated, there was an old man called Elder Xia, who was indeed practicing martial arts. It was just that this person had just coughed up a large mouthful of blood. His condition wasn't very good. All around were his subordinates. Seeing Elder Xia like this, they were extremely worried and rushed forward together to check the situation. However, when this old man turned around, his eyes suddenly became very strange, specifically filled with killing intent. Spiritual energy, I want more spiritual energy. As he spoke, he grabbed the neck of one of his subordinates. This is not good. Elder Xia has gone mad. Quick, invite Mr. Wu to help. The group immediately fell into a panic. Then, Zhang Yi appeared as if he had fallen from the sky, quickly using his strength to push Elder Xiao away, saving the life of the subordinate whose neck he was strangling. It seems this cultivation method isn't suitable for you. If you continue to cultivate like this, sooner or later, your bones will break, and you won't even have your life left, Zhang Yi sincerely advised. However, the opponent was in a frenzied state and paid no heed to this advice. He only felt that in Zhang Yi, there existed an incredibly abundant spiritual energy. His killing intent grew even more intense. Elder Xia wanted to drain Zhang Yi's spiritual energy to fulfill his long-held wish. With that said, he clenched his fists and aggressively rushed towards him. However, this punch couldn't land. It was as if it was blocked by a sturdy shield surrounding Zhang Yi. Blocked, Elder Xia widened his eyes in confusion, while Zhang Yi appeared extremely calm. Anyway, meeting each other is fate. I'll help you then. As he finished speaking, Zhang Yi, who was originally in front of Elder Xia, miraculously circled behind him. Then, as fast as lightning, pressed several acupoints on the opponent's body. Elder Xia couldn't dodge in time. His whole body immediately went limp and collapsed. But Zhang Yi caught him. He let the opponent sit cross-legged on the ground, then muttered, "Just as I predicted, this is just a basic level cultivation method. Once you've cultivated past the first layer, the cultivation of the previous level cannot help you resolve your inner demon. So it made you go mad." Just as he said this, suddenly behind Zhang came the whistling sound of something cutting through the air, along with someone shouting loudly, "Stinky brat, how dare you do that?" This person was precisely the Mr. Wu, whom Elder Xia's subordinates had just called for help. When he arrived, he just happened to see him collapsed under Zhang Yi's hands. So he immediately assumed Zhang Yi had just injured this person and rushed over to settle the score. Who would have thought, even with a sneak attack from behind, this person was still repelled by Zhang Yi. At the same time, Zhang Yi had begun transferring internal energy into Elder Xia from behind, feeling that this young man was helping him. Elder Xia, sitting cross-legged on the ground, sternly said loudly to the newcomer, "Wu Gang, don't be rude." Scolded by Elder Xia, Wu Gang showed an expression of disbelief, but still had to reluctantly retreat. Not long after, Zhang Yi also finished transferring internal energy to him. Elder Xia felt his body stabilize, so he propped his hands on his knees and slowly stood up, then cupped his hands towards Zhang Yi and said, "I'm Xia Guoxiong. Today, I was careless in my cultivation and suffered a qi deviation. Fortunately, you intervened and saved me in time. I'm truly grateful. Life's affairs are unpredictable. Meeting today is already fate." Zhang Yi waved his hand, indicating it was nothing. However, after thinking, he asked further, "You've been injured before, haven't you? Your cultivation method seems very harsh. If you continue like this, you'll lose your life easily." As soon as Zhang Yi said this, the few people there fell silent. Wu Gang couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, because what Zhang Yi had just said was precisely the biggest problem Xia Guoxiong was facing. Yet, he could recognize it with just a glance. This proved that this young man was unfathomably profound. After a long while, Xia Guoxiong reluctantly nodded, admitting the problem he was facing, then asked if Zhang Yi had any way to solve it. He pretended to think for a few seconds, then coolly concluded, "If it's not suitable, just change to another method. If you trust me then, give me that thing, and I'll fix it for you." After hearing this, Xia Guoxiong couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. The ancient cultivation technique he practiced was a collection of wisdom from countless generations. How could an ordinary person easily modify it? How could that be? Moreover, it was someone as young as Zhang Yi. Yet this young man could say those words without his expression changing, and he even seemed very confident. Noticing the other's hesitation, Zhang Yi immediately asked back, "What? You don't believe me?" Xia Guoxiong's head was covered in cold sweat. Indeed, an ancient cultivation technique wasn't something anyone could modify. But if he stubbornly continued to cultivate according to it, he feared that qi deviation situation would recur. And the reason he practiced so desperately was because he was trying his best to revive the declining Xia family. Thinking it through, Xia Guoxiong then thought that Zhang Yi before him was a master sent by heaven to help him achieve that. Therefore, after careful consideration, Xia Guoxiong decisively gave the cultivation technique he was practicing to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi flipped through the book once, then nodded, and put it in his pocket. "Rest assured, once I grasp the secrets of this technique, I will easily modify it. I have to go now. We will meet again when this has been improved. Xia Guoxiong cupped his hands towards Zhang Yi and bowed again, saying he would wait for good news from him. When Zhang Yi had left, Wu Gang, who was beside him, dared to speak up. Old Xia, do you really believe that brat? What if he's tricking us? Xia Guoxiong shook his head and said he didn't need to worry about that, because that ancient cultivation technique, apart from an ancient martial arts grandmaster, others wouldn't understand it even if they read it. Even if they had it, it would be useless. This made Wu Gang extremely astonished. That young-looking young man, was he really an ancient martial arts grandmaster? Originally, he was still half-believing, half-doubting, but after a while, Wu Gang decided to find a way to contact Zhang Yi. Hello, Mr. Zhang. I am Wu Gang, the one you defeated this morning. At Miss Xia's request, I would like to invite you to join us for a party. Tonight, I wonder if you would be comfortable. When he received these messages, Zhang Yi was already in the car driven by Chu Hui, next to Song Yujiao. Not unexpectedly, the reaction of the girl named Chu was quite predictable. As soon as she saw Zhang Yi accompanying them, she had a long face throughout the journey. Yu Jiao, today is our sister's gathering. Why did you let him come along? I am Yu Jiao's boyfriend. If she goes, I want to go too. Could it be that for this gathering, you didn't invite any other guys? Zhang Yi retorted. Just a simple sentence like that was enough to make Chu Hui furious. Song Yujiao, are you sure about your relationship with him? Of course I am. Song Yujiao replied firmly, further fanning Chu Hui's anger. She kept muttering and cursing Zhang Yi, but he couldn't be bothered. Zhang Yi opened his phone and replied to Wu Gang's message. I have an appointment, but later, just come to the Bing Wong Entertainment Center, room 308. Yes, Mr. Zhang, I will be there right away. Wu Gang didn't dare to delay and replied immediately. Turning off his phone, Zhang Yi also specially said he had prepared a big gift for Chu Hui, making her half believe, half doubt. A big gift? What kind of big gift can you give me? Wait, just get there and you'll know. Not long after, the car stopped in front of the party venue. At this time, that young Master Zheng and his subordinates were already waiting at the door. As soon as Chu Hui stopped the car, seeing him, she was so happy she almost jumped. Young Master Zheng, look who I brought. As soon as he saw her, that Zheng guy knew Song Yujiao had also come. A look of hunger appeared on his face. No different from a hooligan. It seems I'll be very busy tonight. As soon as Song Yujiao got out of the car, that Zheng guy and his subordinates hurriedly approached to greet her. Even though it was their first meeting, this young Master Zheng still didn't mind, expressing his admiration for her beauty, and even personally reached out to help her out of the car. Zhang Yi watched this scene, and goosebumps rose all over him. Truly, in any era, there are always scoundrels, disguised as elegant gentlemen, trying to deceive innocent girls. But, since I'm here today, how can I let him easily take advantage of my girlfriend like that? That Zheng guy's hand was still extended, waiting patiently. However, the hand that was placed in his was Zhang Yi's, not Song Yujiao's, accompanied by an extremely punchable expression. Young Master Zheng, you're too polite. It's not far from here to the banquet hall. I can take you Jiao, that's fine. Young Master Zheng widened his eyes in confusion. Clearly, just now he saw Zhang Yi get out of the car on the other side. How did he get over here in the blink of an eye like that? It didn't stop there. Zhang Yi also made a preemptive strike by introducing himself as Song Yujiao's boyfriend, here today to attend the party with her. After hearing this, before that Zheng guy could even react, Chu Hui beside him flared up. Zhang Yi, who allowed you to speak to young Master Zheng like that? And who wants to shake your hand? Let go quickly. It's okay, we're all guests. That Zheng guy replied with a fake smile, but the smile on his face was clearly very stiff. In his heart, he was silently wondering, what the hell is Chu Hui doing? Why on such an important day did she bring Song Yujiao's boyfriend along? Then he flicked Zhang Yi's hand away, changing to an extremely hospitable expression, of course still very fake, and invited them into the banquet hall. Zhang Yi also politely said thank you, then put his arm around Song Yujiao's shoulder and they walked in together. This strong act of asserting sovereignty made young Master Zheng and Chu Hui, who were behind, very displeased. Meanwhile, Song Yujiao looked a bit unnatural. I didn't expect Chu Hui to actually invite young Master Zheng to join this party. This sister's gathering. If you don't like it, why don't we just go back? It's okay. I can arrange this myself. Zhang Yi whispered to reassure her. That Zheng guy watched their retreating figures, feeling anger flaring up. He immediately ordered his subordinate to investigate Zhang Yi's background thoroughly and at the same time called another subordinate, Wang Long, to guard outside the private room. If anything happened, tell Wang Long to just take Zhang Yi's life directly. Absolutely do not spoil my mood tonight. Clearly, it was said to be a gathering of sisters, but in private room 308, in the end there were only the four of them. If Zhang Yi hadn't gone, it would indeed have been just Song Yu Jiao, Chu Hui, and that young guy. Chu Hui was busy pouring wine, while that young Master Zheng started to get close and asked Song Yu Jiao questions. By the way, Miss Song, when did you get a boyfriend? I've never even heard about this before. It's nothing special. Zhang Yi and I knew each other even before university. Zhang Yi on one side perked up his ears, listening to their conversation, while on the other, he intently watched Chu Hui's actions. Her busyness mixing drinks gave him a bad feel. Could it be that in the previous life, it was also from this glass of wine that Song Yu Jiao's tragic incident happened? Thinking of this, Zhang Yi felt it was very possible, so he used his ability to secretly swap her and Chu Hui's wine glasses. Then, the four of them raised their glasses together. On that Zheng guy's face was an expectant look that was hard to hide. Just as Zhang Yi had anticipated, after the first few sips of wine, the wine glass in Chu Hui's hand slipped and shattered. That wine glass was originally meant for Song Yu Jiao, but he had swapped it, and indeed, there was a problem with it. The drug mixed in the wine entered the bloodstream very quickly. Chu Hui, under the influence of the drug, found it hard to control herself. Now, I just feel so hot right now. First, she pulled her collar down to her chest. Then she kept writhing her body, displaying her wanton demeanor. Sister Chu Hui, what's wrong? Song Yu Jiao was still innocent, unaware of what was happening. Meanwhile, that Zheng guy showed an extremely disappointed expression because he knew clearly that the wine had been drunk by the wrong person. Just then, his subordinate also rushed in, bringing some hot news, whispering into his master's ear that he had finished investigating Zhang Yi's identity. And the key point here was that he had left home long ago, and his father was currently very ill. That young Master Zheng burst out laughing after hearing this, chuckling, thinking he had Zhang Yi in his grasp. This matter will be easy to resolve then. He then threw a bank card in front of Zhang Yi, saying it contained 100,000 renminbi, enough for him to pay for his father's medical expenses. And the condition to get that card was to immediately get out of here and not reveal what happened today to anyone. Young Master Zheng, what do you mean by that? Song Yu Jiao now realized something was amiss and flared up. Are you very worried, dear? At this moment, this Zheng guy finally revealed his true nature. He burst out laughing. I'm spending 100,000 yuan to buy a one-night stand with you, dear. Guess if your dear boyfriend will agree or not. Song Yu Jiao was furious at this blatant and shameless proposal from that young Master Zheng. But what shocked her even more was that Zheng, he actually picked up the card, held it up, and examined it with a look full of interest. Zhang Yi. Song Yu Jiao called his name in shock. Meanwhile, when that Zheng guy saw this scene, he became even more excited. He burst into hearty laughter. Little beauty, you still don't understand? Your boyfriend has already sold you to me. But right after that, the card in Zhang Yi's hand was suddenly by some kind of force that Zheng guy couldn't explain, snapped and shattered. Immediately after, he rushed forward and pushed the opponent's chin hard, causing young Master Zheng's lower and upper jaws to collide violently. The pain made him instantly shut his mouth. Wang Long, come here quickly, he cried out in panic. And at this moment, Chu Hui, in a daze on the chair, still had the strength to threaten Zhang Yi. You bastard. If you don't want trouble, let young Master Zheng go quickly. Let him go. Zhang Yi mimicked her words in a mocking tone. I still have a lot to settle with him. Just then, the private room door opened, and a burly man walked in. It was probably the Wang Long that Zheng guy had just called. Wang Long, after observing the situation, didn't rush to act, but sneered, Young Master Zheng, how did you let that brat get you into this state? That Zheng guy, both in pain and ashamed, shouted loudly. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and help me. Young Master Zheng, rest assured. Today, I have to see what color this brat's blood is. When Wang Long's punch came swinging, Zhang Yi responded very calmly. First, he threw that playboy aside to clear his hands and feet, then used his left hand to perfectly block Wang Long's attack. When he saw that Zhang Yi also knew some martial arts, he became even more excited. Zhang Yi, taking advantage of the opponent's exposed opening, then used his right hand to throw a punch that hit his sternum. Who would have thought this guy was so thick-skinned and fleshy? The physical damage of this blow didn't affect him at all. You've got some strength, but using that kind of flashy martial art in front of me. I'm afraid you're just asking for trouble. Wang Long said very arrogantly. It seems you're just a guy who knows how to train muscles, but has no brain, huh? Zhang Yi sneered. He never intended to use that mere punch to take down the opponent. Instead, when their two bodies made contact, Zhang Yi immediately activated the deception art. In just an instant, this skill took effect. Wang Long immediately turned into a puppet at Zhang Yi's beck and call. Take your people and go, he ordered. Yes, sir, Wang Long replied. Then, he dragged young Master Zhang's subordinates out by their collars. Now, only 4 people remained in the room. Zhang Yi had no worries about whether he could take down young Master Zhang or not. But who would have thought this madman even kept contraband on him? As soon as Wang Long left the room, Zhang Yi felt a cold gun muzzle pointed straight at his head. Zhang Yi, I didn't expect you to have 2 lives, but let me see what kind of martial art you use to deal with my bullets. Zhang. He tried to maintain his composure in this situation, but inwardly he was covered in cold sweat. This morning, because he treated Xia Guoxiong's injuries, he had already consumed most of his strength. Now, he was afraid he couldn't use the human king art anymore. While Zhang, he hadn't yet thought of countermeasure. Song Yujiao suddenly found courage from somewhere, grabbed a wine bottle from the table, and smashed it hard on that villain's head. Young Master Zhang was completely unprepared and was dizzied by this blow. Seeing stars, the gun in his hand also fell. He was in so much pain that he squatted down, clutching his head with both hands, his mouth ceaselessly crying out in pain. It hurts so much. You dog, couple, don't even think about leaving here today. It's just that now. Zhang, he had escaped the control of the gun bearer. Then this pretty-faced boy was no longer a threat to him at all. While that Zhang guy was still cursing loudly, he had already grabbed his hair with one hand, and with the other, seized his wrist and pressed him hard to the ground. You think carefully now. Who is the one who won't be able to leave this room today, huh? The pain and the feeling of being subdued absolutely rendered that Zhang guy speechless. After a while of stammering without forming words. I miss Mom's cooking, boo-hoo. This situation truly left Zhang Yi at a loss for words. This guy had clearly set them up. And now he was acting as if they were bullying him. The crying of that guy, surnamed Zhang, grew louder, attracting the attention of 2 tall, large men outside in the hallway. Who's crying in here? Aren't you afraid of ruining my business? The man in front, with a large cigar in his mouth, barked. Who would have thought upon hearing this voice? That young Master Zhang immediately wailed. Dad, it's me. The man was so shocked, he instantly broke the cigar in his hand. He never expected the source of that whimpering cry to be his own son. And when he took a closer look at young Master Zhang's current state, he felt even more embarrassed. All right, who is this brat? How dare you mess with my son? Are you tired of living? The pretty boy's father rolled up his sleeves, about to rush forward to save his son, but was pulled back by the man behind him. I asked you to find someone for me. What kind of monkey business are you up to here? Mr. Wu, please wait a moment. This is my son. Old Master Zhang replied obsequiously, putting on a fawning expression. This Mr. Wu was none other than Wu Gang. It seemed he was here to find Zhang, and accidentally ran into him in this situation. As for young Master Zhang, seeing both his father and Wu Gang appear, he became even more unruly. Thinking the tables had turned in his favor, he laughed loudly and said very loudly, Zhang Yi, you're finished. Both Mr. Wu and my dad are here. Let's see what you dare to do to me. Hearing the 3 words, Mr. Wu, from young Master Zhang's mouth, Zhang, he was sure that the person he had an appointment with had arrived. His hand still held that Zhang guy tightly, but he peeked his head out to confirm. Little Wu, what took you so long? Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, the pretty boy laughed even harder. Little Wu? Ha ha ha. Zhang Yi, it seems you're scared, stupid, huh? Don't you know Mr. Wu's background? How dare you speak like that? Wu Gang had just recognized Zhang Yi at this moment. He bowed his head and spoke with utmost respect. Mr. Zhang, I'm so sorry I'm late. Old Xia couldn't personally come to pick you up, so he sent me to greet you. As soon as these words were spoken, Wu Gang made the Zhang father and son's faces drain of all color. Old Xia? Who was Old Xia? Could it be Xia Guoxiong of the Lingnan Xia family? Really? Who was Zhang Yi? What kind of background did he have to make Old Xia want to personally greet him and make Wu Gang so respectful? They didn't know, but the more they thought, the more terrified they became. At this moment, Zhang, he finally let go of the rich playboy. Then he shrugged and said to Wu Gang, "You're not late. I've already prepared everything. But as you can see, a little trouble has occurred. Sir, you're too kind. Let me help you resolve this small matter." Hearing Wu Gang's words, "help you resolve, old master," Jin couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This was someone his father and son couldn't afford to offend, being a man who knew how to adapt. He turned to Zhang Yi and apologized first. "Mr. Zhang, this is my fault for not raising my son well. I've troubled you. I'll make him apologize to you immediately." But that wasn't the end of the matter. Because Zhang, he had no intention of accepting this apology. Just thinking about how that young Master Zhang and Zhou Hui schemed to harm his girlfriend made him want to beat him to a pulp in front of old Master Zhang. Zhang Yi bluntly exposed his son's crimes. But young Master Zhang was a coward, daring to do, but not daring to admit. Hearing Zhang Yi's accusation, he immediately wailed that Zhang Yi was framing him. However, this time, he no longer received his father's protection, but a slap that felt like it came from the heavens. "Shut up. You think I don't know about the disgusting things you usually do? Father doesn't know? How dare you act so arrogantly in front of Mr. Zhang?" Young Master Zhang was knocked to the floor by the slap. He clutched his face, looking utterly stunned. It seemed he couldn't believe that his father would hit him for an outsider like Zhang Yi. Unlike this son who didn't know his place, old Master Zhang was now just short of kneeling down and begging him, "Mr. Zhang, however you want to punish him is up to you. I only hope you'll spare his wretched life for my sake." Zhang Yi let out an "oh" after hearing this. "You said it yourself." After being given full authority, Zhang Yi gave that young Master Zhang a thorough beating. After beating him to his heart's content, he then took Song Yujiao and Wu Gang and left the private room. On the way back, Wu Gang couldn't stop wondering, "Mr. Zhang, you gave that brat such a beating. Wasn't that letting him off too easy?" Zhang Yi shook his head. After all, he hadn't held back earlier. That beating was probably enough to scare young Master Zhang out of his wits. In the future, he wouldn't dare to do such despicable things again. Wu Gang nodded after hearing this. After walking a few steps, he remembered something, then started rummaging in his pocket and took out a bank card, handing it to Zhang Yi, saying there were 10 million yuan inside. Xia Guoxiong had personally instructed him to give it to Zhang Yi to express gratitude for his help. When Zhang Yi heard the sum of 10 million yuan, his whole body trembled. He reached out his hand, but Wu Gang misunderstood, thinking he wanted to refuse. He quickly said, "Old Xia knows you don't care about worldly possessions, but please accept it." This is old Xia's heartfelt gesture. Zhang Yi's hand trembled violently. Finally, he took the card. "Since it's old Xia's kind intention, I'll accept it then." He still looked quite calm. But in reality, it was all an effort to restrain himself. Who said he didn't care about worldly possessions? Zhang Yi's heart had long wanted to explode after hearing that amount. So money in this world was this easy to earn. It seemed the problem of buying medicinal herbs to restore spiritual power was solved. Zhang Yi's mood was particularly joyful because of this. So much so that when he heard Wu Gang say that old Xia had other matters to discuss with him, Zhang Yi immediately agreed to go. However, when they were about to leave, Song Yujiao suddenly grabbed his hand. "Zhang Yi, I also have something to tell you." Zhang Yi naturally couldn't refuse. Song Yujiao then told Wu Gang to go to the car first, and she would follow later. The two then walked hand in hand down the street. Song Yujiao's mood was clearly not good. It took her a long time to finally say, "I'm sorry," because before, Zhang Yi had always advised her to keep her distance from Zhou Hui, but she didn't listen. She never expected something like this to happen today, implicating him as well. "Silly girl, didn't I tell you before that I would protect you? I wanted to come. How can you say you implicated me?" Zhang Yi chuckled. "Well, yes, I am silly, but don't just say things like that carelessly. If you can't do it, you'll disappoint me." Speaking up to this point, Song Yujiao paused. "It's just that, Zhang Yi, you've really changed a lot. As an intelligent girl." Song Yujiao clearly knew that Zhang Yi now had many secrets. After all, for a person to become so different overnight was hard to explain. But she didn't press him about what he was hiding, only reminded Zhang Yi to be sure to protect himself well, and not to forget that there was always someone behind him worrying about him. Her. Looking at this expression and the word Song Yujiao had just said, Zhang Yi's heart was stirred once more. Under the bright moonlight, he quickly stepped forward and placed a kiss on her lips. "I promise to take care of myself and protect you well too." After letting go of Song Yujiao, Zhang Yi affirmed resolutely. After that, the two temporarily parted ways so Zhang Yi could go to Xia Guoxiong's place. Watching Wu Gang's car drive further away, in Song Yujiao's heart, there was a strange sense of reassurance. Perhaps he really will be able to keep his promise, she thought to herself. Just then, another car stopped right behind Song Yujiao. From the car, a man with a mullet haircut, dressed sharply, stepped out. Yujiao, I didn't expect to meet you here. Where are you going? Do you need me to give you a ride? By the way, I also have something to tell you. Song Yujiao didn't need to turn around. She could recognize this man by his voice. And clearly, she wasn't happy about it at all. No need to bother. And I don't have anything to say to you either. Song Yujiao replied coldly. Don't treat me like a stranger. Aunt and uncle said we should maintain a good relationship. So that later, about the marriage, as the other person was speaking, he reached out to put his arm around Song Yujiao's shoulder, but she decisively pushed it away. Zhao Jinsheng, I'm warning you for the last time. I already have a boyfriend, and I won't marry you just because of the relationship between our two families. If my parents think so highly of you, then you go marry them. After saying this, Song Yujiao walked straight away. That Zhao Jinsheng watched a retreating figure for a long time, then sneered, silently criticizing Song Yujiao for being too naive. He even wanted to show her how he would crush Zhang Yi in the future. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi had just arrived at the Xia family home. This was the second time he had met Xia Guoxiong in front of such a young man like him. Xia Guoxiong was extremely polite. Mr. Zhang agreeing to help the Xia family is our honor. In the future, if you need anything, please tell us. Zhang Yi originally had no intention of relying on others, but Xia Guoxiong was different. After all, he would still owe him a great debt in the future. So now, he might as well ask for whatever help he could get. Not to mention, the other party was also the second most influential person in this Lingnan region. Thinking this, Zhang Yi took out a photo from his breast pocket and asked if he knew who the person in the photo was. The person in the photo was Sun Jiyang. Xia Guoxiong vaguely recognized him after looking at, but couldn't remember his name. He only knew he was the second generation heir of a wealthy family in Yanjing. Mr. Zhang, do you and this young man have some issue with each other? Yes. Actually, there's a small problem. Zhang Yi replied honestly. Then he recounted how, in the past, Sun Jiyang and his accomplices had broken his father's leg, ruining his life from then on. At that time, Zhang Yi wasn't strong enough to fight back, nor did he fully understand the situation. But thinking about it carefully now, he was very puzzled. Why would the son of tycoon from Yanjing come all the way here to cause trouble? So what is Mr. Zhang's meaning? Xia Guoxiong still didn't quite understand. I suspect there's a hidden story behind this. I want to ask old Xia to help me investigate. Who is really behind this? Xia Guoxiong immediately stood up after hearing this, assuming his most serious demeanor, and promised Zhang Yi that he and the Xia family would definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. He even emphasized that from now on, Zhang Yi's business was also the Xia family's business, so they would definitely do their best. That evening passed peacefully. The next day, at the Hongyi Martial Arts Hall, Li Chang, whose face had been disfigured by Zhang Yi the day before, came here crying, Big brother, you must help your little brother get revenge. Zhang Yi's beating still shows on my face. Him beating me like that is like slapping you in the face. Hearing the name, Zhang Yi, this person found it very amusing. Zhang Yi? You mean that piece of trash? Li Chang was perhaps now more sensitive to the words piece of trash than even Zhang Yi. Hearing this, he bristled. Big brother, you don't know. That kid learned martial arts from somewhere, and all three of us were beaten by him to this state. Hearing this, the man finally showed a little more interest. That sounds interesting. It just so happens I haven't had anyone to practice with lately. Let's go, we'll find him. That day, while walking on campus, Zhang Yi heard someone calling his name breathlessly. Turning around, it was his chubby friend named Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao seemed to have just run a long distance and was out of breath. Zhang Yi, run quickly. Li Chang snitched to Zhao Zihong to get revenge on you. Zhou Hao panted as he spoke. Zhao Zihong. Zhang Yi asked back. He didn't seem to have much impression of this name. Yes, it's me. I am Zhao Zihong. Suddenly, a voice rang out right beside them. It turned out the person Li Chang had sought at the martial arts hall was named Zhao Zihong. Moreover, this person seemed quite famous, because as soon as he appeared, Zhao Zihong caused the female students in the school to become excited to the point of chaos. When meeting Zhang Yi, this person still looked particularly polite, seemingly possessing the demeanor of a true master. It was said he even reached the national martial arts finals. Li Chang told me, "You are qualified to be my opponent. I look forward to your guidance." Zhao Zihong proposed, but it was actually a challenge. Thinking that with such a public challenge, Zhang Yi's self-esteem wouldn't allow him to refuse. Who would have guessed he would bluntly turn and walk away, then throw Zhao Zihong 3 words, "Not interested," infuriating him. What an impolite person. Zhao Zihong yelled, but Zhang Yi didn't stop. In a situation facing such a strong opponent, Zhao Zihong didn't intend to miss this good opportunity to spar. Importantly, he wanted to humiliate Zhang Yi in front of everyone to assert his status. So, without waiting for Zhang Yi's consent, Zhao Zihong gathered energy in his palm, then lunged forward. Thud! The school grounds shook violently. Dust flew everywhere. The tremor was caused by Zhang, who had successfully blocked this man's punch. But he was also extremely surprised that the martial art Zhao Zihong used was the martial art of his own era. Yes, you have some understanding, but this isn't all of it. Zhao Zihong smirked. Then once again, he focused his strength. This fist, containing 90% of his power, struck Zhang Yi hard, sending him flying instantly. The loud noise this time came from Zhang Yi's body, slamming hard against the wall. Under this impact, a large section of the wall also cracked and broke, and Zhang Yi's entire body was almost pinned to it. Next time you beat a dog, remember to look at its owner first. Now get lost, Zhao Zihong gloated. But it didn't take long for Zhang Yi to get back on his feet, albeit with some difficulty. Then he snorted coldly, attacking without warning. How infuriating. Looks like I'll have to use that move. However, there were many people surrounding the scene at this moment, hot on Zhao Zihong's heels. If he revealed his human king physique, he feared it would cause a lot of trouble. Zhang Yi thought for a few seconds, then a smug smile appeared on his lips. He took step after step towards Zhao Zihong, then called out loudly, "Hey, you sneak attacker!" Zhao Zihong turned his head in astonishment to see Zhang. He's still alive and well. He didn't think anyone could still walk like a normal person after tasting one of his Hongyi fist blows. Like this. Zhang, he suddenly raised his hand high. "My sincere congratulations to you for successfully attracting my attention." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang, he flicked his hand sharply towards Zhao Zihong, then jumped very high. But at that moment, indeed, Zhao Zihong hadn't felt anything yet, other than the light being a bit blinding. "You just claimed to be the absolute strongest, didn't you?" Zhang, he chuckled again, his tone laced with mockery. Just then, the light surrounding his body began to transform, becoming streams of power. Zhao Zihong's eyes widened in shock. This is spiritual energy taking form. Those powerful streams of spiritual energy, under Zhang Yi's control, struck down hard on the ground where Zhao Zihong was standing. He hurriedly retreated, dodging awkwardly. However, when Zhao Zihong had successfully dodged this wave of materialized spiritual energy, he couldn't dodge. Zhang Yi, with a slight opening, he received a punch from him. Zhao Zihong hadn't even realized the current situation when his wrist was grabbed by Zhang Yi and pulled sharply. At the same time, he kneed him, driving it hard into his stomach. Internal and external injuries combined. Zhao Zihong immediately vomited a large mouthful of blood. Zhang Yi asked contemptuously, "Is this all the strength you have?" After this remark, he ended the fight with a very powerful kick. Zhao Zihong was sent flying into the air. The spot where he landed on the ground caved in, forming a pit. Zhao Zihong's appearance was utterly wretched. Zhang, he had used the exact same method he had used on him earlier, returning it twofold. The surrounding onlookers were so astonished by this scene, their jaws dropped. Was this the senior Zhao Zihong, who had reached the national martial arts finals that they once knew? And now he was defeated by Zhang Yi. This was truly too hard to believe. Just as he finished dealing with this matter, Zhang Yi received a call from Song Yujiao. On the other end of the line, he could hear her hesitating for a long time before she could form a sentence. "Zhang, my parents know about us. They want to meet you at the birthday party in a few days." Zhang Yi's whole body immediately froze with tension upon hearing this. Even when facing a formidable enemy, it didn't make him this nervous. The next day, Zhang Yi went to Xia Guoxiong's house again. He originally wanted to ask him to help find some good gifts, so that his first meeting with the parents would go smoothly. But as soon as he arrived at the door, he saw Wu Gang rushing out of the house, saying that old Xia was in some trouble. Zhang Yi was very surprised to hear this. He didn't think that in Lingnan there would be anyone who dared to cause trouble for Xia Guoxiong. Wu Gang sighed deeply and repeatedly and began to recount the situation. He said that today, the Dongfang family came to bet their entire clan, challenging Xia Guoxiong, but he didn't know what sorcery they used to be able to force him into a disadvantageous position. Zhang Yi also pondered for a few seconds after hearing this. Betting the entire clan? That's quite an interesting bet. He followed Wu Gang inside. In the arena, Xia Guoxiong and the person from the Dongfang family were still fighting intensely. And indeed, Xia Guoxiong seemed to be at a disadvantage. However, just thinking about the opponent's plot to swallow the entire Xia family, he forced himself to persevere a little longer. The spiritual energy in the opponent's hand continuously transformed into water blades, along with elusive blade techniques. In the final move, the old man, wielding the water blade, charged madly towards Xia Guoxiong. But both he and Zhang Yi outside realized something was not quite right, because the spiritual energy this person was using was not his own. Zhang Yi looked around, and sure enough, discovered a suspicious person standing near the arena. This person wore a black cloak covering them from head to toe, making it impossible to see their face. But his hands were manipulating a type of spiritual energy, completely identical to the strange spiritual energy of the old Dongfang. Man, Zhang Yi snorted and chuckled to himself. So that's the truth. No wonder the Dongfang family dared to be so bold as to bet their entire clan. But while Xia Guoxiong might not realize it, to him, this was just a petty trick. Zhang Yi giggled a few times, silently thinking that once he broke the stranger's trick, let's see if he could continue to transfer power to the old Dongfang man. With this thought, he took out a small, golden creature called a gouging bean sprout. As soon as Zhang Yi released it, the gouging bean sprout flew straight up into the sky. Not long after, someone noticed that this small, golden bug was sucking the dark clouds in the sky. This strange phenomenon quickly attracted the attention of all the spectators surrounding the arena, including, of course, the cloaked figure. Like Zhang Yi, he immediately scanned his surroundings, trying to find the author of this event, and he identified his target when he saw the triumphant smile on Zhang Yi's face. On the arena, the old Dongfang family man's attack suddenly faltered. It was precisely because of that spiritual energy-absorbing larva that the flow of spiritual energy into the old man's body was suddenly interrupted. He hurriedly turned his head, frantically, signaling with his eyes to the man in the black cloak. It's just a mere bug. This person snorted coldly, then changed his posture, forming hand seals, using his spiritual energy to transform into a giant eagle, heading straight for Zhang Yi's gouging bean sprout. The observers at this moment were even more amazed, silently speculating that the eagle made of spiritual energy was surely controlled by some master. Zhang Yi's gouging bean sprout was just a small bug, with no ability to fight back against that large eagle. It was quickly swallowed whole. Just then, Xia Guoxiong on the arena was also sent flying by his opponent's move. He fell heavily to the ground, his whole body in extreme pain, and had to endure the jeers of both his opponent and those below. Wu Gang was extremely anxious seeing this, and pleaded with Zhang Yi to quickly save old Xia. Otherwise, he feared he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Don't rush. Zhang Yi maintained his calm demeanor. His spiritual energy eagle has swallowed the insectoid created by my human king's art. The real climax is about to begin. Just as Zhang Yi said this, that eagle suddenly exhibited some strange phenomenon, specifically at the location of its heart. A golden ray of light suddenly flashed. The man in the black cloak was terrified to see this, because he knew that ray of light indicated his eagle was about to explode. How could this be? Clearly, that larva was completely swallowed by my spiritual energy. Completely, right? He muttered, but no matter what he said, he couldn't stop that spiritual energy eagle from exploding in the sky. After this explosion, a torrent of golden spiritual energy rained down from the sky, all of it converging into Xia Guoxiong's body. He had just been knocked to the ground, seemingly on the verge of defeat. But now he stood up once more, his powerful aura overwhelming his opponent. Xia Guoxiong himself didn't understand what had just happened. He only knew his whole body was suddenly filled with spiritual energy, his fighting spirit boiling. Wu Gang shouted anxiously from below the stage. Old Xia, that's spiritual energy Mr. Zhang lent you. That Dongfang guy is also just borrowing someone else's spiritual energy. Xia Guoxiong suddenly understood. No wonder just now, the old demon on the opposite side had suddenly become so powerful, but it was all over now. Now that Xia Guoxiong had Zhang Yi's spiritual energy, even if there were two old Dongfang men, he wouldn't be afraid of losing anymore. Just when they thought the match would end there, who would have thought the Dongfang family would be so despicable as to resort to taking a hostage? The old man, seeing he had no chance of winning against Xia Guoxiong, yelled loudly, "Stop! Your granddaughter is in my hands." At this moment, the Dongfang family members brought Xia Guoxiong's granddaughter near the arena. When he saw his beloved granddaughter tied up, her hands bound and mouth gagged with tape, he was furious. "You old demon, you're truly despicable, despite being cursed." The old man on the other side felt no shame. Since victory makes one king, he didn't mind using any means necessary to win. Over here, his subordinate had already drawn a dagger. The cold blade, ice cold and sharp, was pressed against the neck of Xia Guoxiong's granddaughter. A triumphant glint appeared in the old man's eyes. He began to threaten once more. "Xia Guoxiong, if you surrender now, it's still not too late. Otherwise, your granddaughter is guaranteed not to survive." The surrounding audience hadn't even adapted to this kind of situation yet. They were all very surprised to see the Dongfang family being so shameless. Shameless to that extent. This match, originally an exciting contest, had now become twisted and ugly. Wu Gang was even more anxious, because he knew old Xia loved his granddaughter more than anything in the world. Fortunately, Zhang Yi quickly figured out a countermeasure. This time, he used soul control art. After the preparations were complete, Zhang Yi instructed Wu Gang that in a moment, when he shouted loudly, he must immediately rush to save old Xia's granddaughter. He himself would take care of the rest. Although Wu Gang didn't dare to doubt Zhang Yi's abilities, he was still extremely worried. "But no matter how fast I am, I can't be faster than their blades. What if I agitate them and they strike? It'll be over then. Just do as I say." Zhang Yi affirmed resolutely once more. Then he launched his soul control art, aiming straight at one of the two Dongfang family subordinates, who were restraining Fenger. The blade in his hand immediately moved, dropping limply. But at this moment, no one noticed, because everyone was focused on old Xia and the old Dongfang man on the arena. Seeing Xia Guoxiong still hesitating and not stopping, the old man immediately ordered his subordinate, "Strangle his granddaughter for me. Let me see whether your Xia Guoxiong family chooses its enterprise or its granddaughter. You dare." Xia Guoxiong hissed, but his actions had indeed stopped. He didn't dare to make a move. The one not hit by Zhang Yi's soul control art was responsible for holding Fenger tightly from behind. Meanwhile, the one who was hit reached out his hand, as if preparing to strangle her. But just at this moment, Zhang Yi controlled him through his ability. This man's action of strangling Fenger instantly turned into a punch, striking his own comrade squarely in the face. The other man, of course, didn't expect things to turn out like this, so he couldn't react in time. Just then, Zhang Yi shouted loudly. Wu Gang immediately snapped to attention, and quick as lightning, rushed up to rescue Xia Guoxiong's granddaughter. On the arena, the old man from the Dongfang family saw this scene, and was so angry his hair stood on end. He roared, "You bastard! What are you doing?" Just then, the soul control art wore off. The bald man, upon regaining his senses, saw his comrade had fainted from his own blows, but he himself was completely unaware of what had just happened. Meanwhile, Wu Gang had successfully rescued young Miss Xia. After untying her, he introduced her to Zhang Yi, saying that it was thanks to him that she was safe. Young Miss Xia said thank you on the surface, but in her heart, she was silently judging. "This kid looks so weak, yet he could save me," she thought to herself, with the worry of his beloved granddaughter being controlled. Resolved, Xia Guoxiong, free on the arena, took no time at all to deal with his opponent. The old man of the Dongfang family was knocked to the ground, his whole body trembling, completely powerless with absolutely no way to resist anymore. "You despicable old demon. Do you have any other tricks up your sleeve now? You even dare to touch my granddaughter. His eyes, tone, and Xia Guoxiong's expression all showed he was ready to take his opponent's life right there. Take it all. For the sake of our acquaintance these past few years. Spare my life this time. Faced with the other's pleas, Xia Guoxiong just coldly cursed 2 words. Scumbag. Then, from that old man Dongfang was heard, followed by a gush of fresh blood, like rain. Old man Dongfang stared blankly at the knife in front of him, his eyes wide with terror. Old man Xiao walked up to him. He snorted coldly and said, "This is my final warning. If you dare touch my granddaughter again, I'll take your old life." Wu Xian was so scared he couldn't utter a single word. But Guoxiong didn't care. He glanced at his subordinate and ordered, "Bring it here." Soon, the mortgage papers were brought over. He held them out in front of him and said coldly, "I won't force you. Do it yourself." Wu Xian didn't dare to argue. He nodded like chopping wood. Okay, I'll do it myself. I'll bear the consequences." After signing the mortgage papers, the knife embedded in his hand was finally pulled out. His subordinate quickly helped him up. He went to the mysterious person. Wu Xian asked doubtfully, "What happened? Didn't you say that if you were here, I would definitely win? Now he has lost everything because of this." The other person replied indifferently, "A master appeared today. It's not convenient to stay long. Wait 3 days after I recover. Yinluo City will flow with rivers of blood." Hearing these words, old man Dongfang nodded in satisfaction. 3 days later, "I will reclaim everything I've lost. Let's go." Zhang Yi on this side kept sneezing for some reason. He rubbed his nose and muttered, "Who's talking about me?" Just then, old man Xia approached from a distance and said gratefully, "Grandmaster Zhang, today, thanks to your help. Otherwise, I might have lost my entire family." Zhang Yi waved his hand and said with a smile, "Don't be so polite." Guoxiong then said gravely, "Old man Dongfang has never liked the Xia family, but I didn't expect him to dare bring people here to challenge us. Furthermore, he brought a mysterious person in black as his helper. Things don't seem so simple. He and his granddaughter owe Zhang Yi their lives. So, I want to take the assets of that old devil Dongfang and give them to you. I hope you won't refuse." Zhang Yi felt like old man Xia was afraid of revenge and was using this method to drag him into it. But after all, cooperation was also beneficial, so he agreed, but gave the management rights back to him. Over here, Feng Er saw everything. She pondered inwardly. Zhang, he looks very ordinary, but I don't understand why my grandfather and Wu Gang both respect him so much. Could he really be a master? Thinking this, she immediately ran over and said, "Didn't you say you'd find someone to teach me martial arts? Why don't you ask this gentleman to teach me?" Guoxiong heard this and said, slightly displeased, "That depends on whether he has free time." Zhang Yi, standing nearby, smiled embarrassedly and said, "I'm a bit busy right now, but I will teach Miss Feng Er after I'm done with my work, maybe in a day or 2. At this moment, Guoxiong spoke up again. "Since Grandmaster Zhang trusts me so much, I will not disappoint you. I will definitely manage these assets well." Zhang, he wasn't paying much attention at this point. He suddenly reached into his pocket and took out a piece of paper. Then he opened his mouth. "All right, I plan to make some medicinal pills." He wanted him to help get the herbs. On this list, if he can also find a small house in the suburbs for me, that would be even better. Guoxiong nodded in agreement. He looked at Wu Gang and ordered, "Little Wu, I'll leave this matter for you to handle. From now on, you must diligently complete any tasks Grandmaster Zhang assigns you." Wu Gang immediately accepted the order. "Yes, old man Xia." A few hours later, Zhang Yi arrived in the suburbs, but before him was a mountain villa. He couldn't help but exclaim, "I only said I needed a house in the suburbs. Why did they give me such a luxurious villa?" The next day, the medicinal ingredients were delivered. Zhang Yi laid them out on the table, but he had forgotten one thing. He clicked his tongue, pouted, and said, "Oh dear, I thought I told them to prepare a pill refining furnace." Just then, he saw an induction cooker and a pan on the stove. So, Zhang Yi decided to use it. Refining pills with an induction cooker. I'm probably the first one. 5 minutes later, he was finally ready. Standing by the stove, cooking the ingredients, he muttered, "It's been a while since I last refined medicinal pills. Using this to refine pills feels a bit strange. It's like I'm cooking, but it doesn't matter. As long as I control the temperature well, even a battery-powered furnace could work, though the effect might not be as good as a proper furnace." Among these herbs, The key to success is the formula. Zhang Yi started adding the necessary ingredients into the pan. A moment later, the heat began to rise. He smiled and said, "Next is the moment to witness a miracle." As soon as he finished speaking, the ingredients in the pan started bubbling vigorously. Zhang Yi stared intently at what was before him. For a long while, in an instant, a powerful surge of energy erupted in the house. Zhang Yi watched the flames flare up until they dissipated into 2 small dots in the air. Only then did he reach out and catch the 2 freshly refined pills. He smiled with satisfaction. Success. In the afternoon, it was time for Yu Jiao's family party. At a large hotel, Zhang Yi had just arrived when he received a message from Yu Jiao. "Zhang Yi, are you here yet? Everyone's in the main hall on the 1st floor. You'll see us when you come up." He glanced around and saw an auntie in a bright, flashy red dress standing there. Noticing his gaze, she also looked over. Seeing Zhang Yi's shabby appearance, she snorted disdainfully. "What are you looking at?" Then she even asked, "What are you doing in a fancy place like this?" Zhang Yi just smiled without saying a word. This was the height of contempt. Seeing his smile, the auntie became even more annoyed. She clicked her tongue and cursed, "Tisk, that smile tells you what kind of person he is." Zhang Yi paid no attention and went straight upstairs. Just as he was looking around, bewildered, a voice suddenly called out, "Zhang Yi, over here!" Yu Jiao, in a white dress, rushed straight into his arms. Then she looked behind her and said, "Auntie, come here. Let me introduce you. This is Zhang, my boyfriend." Zhang Yi followed her gaze. Seeing the person, he was startled. Yu Jiao's aunt was actually the flashy auntie in red he had met outside. She was also surprised and asked, "It's you?" Yu Jiao was a bit surprised. She asked doubtfully, "Do you two know each other?" The aunt snorted disdainfully. "Dressed like that, how could I know someone like him?" Zhang Yi ignored her attitude. He looked at Yu Jiao and said, "We don't know each other. We just met at the entrance earlier. I saw Auntie taking some kind of card from a man's hand. It looked like a bank card." Hearing him expose her dirty transaction, she shot up and started to scold, but couldn't get a word out. Just then, someone approached from the other side. It was Zhao Jincheng, leading his entourage. Seeing him, everyone started to whisper. He was very arrogant amidst the crowd's admiration, but he didn't care. He waved to the distance and called out loudly, "Yu Jiao," but after taking a closer look, he saw their 2 hands clasped tightly together. Jincheng looked at Yu Jiao and Zhang Yi, asking uncomfortably, "And this is?" Yu Jiao calmly introduced, "My boyfriend, Zhang." Hearing this, Jincheng exclaimed in alarm, "How come I've never heard you had a boyfriend?" Then he used his contemptuous gaze to observe Zhang Yi from head to toe. His clothes and even his shoes were all scrutinized by him. Jincheng said contemptuously, "This guy looks so shabby. How is he worthy of you?" Zhang Yi heard this, but couldn't care less. He just treated it like a dog barking in the field. Just then, 2 people walked out from inside, Mr. and Mrs. Song. Jincheng immediately ran over to flatter Mother Song. "Mother Song, you look so young today. You look like sisters with Yu Jiao." Hearing these sweet words, Mrs. Song was delighted. "Isn't this young Master Zhao? You're so good with words." He chuckled softly. Then he took out a box and said with a smile, "This is the birthday gift I specially prepared for you, Mother. This bracelet, look at its structure. It's sturdy and inside. It's transparent, made from a special kind of ice." Before Mrs. Song could speak, Yu Jiao's aunt spoke up first. "Young Master Zhao, you truly live up to your name as a young master from a wealthy family, unlike some others." After saying this, whether intentionally or unintentionally, her gaze shifted towards Zhang Yi. Mr. and Mrs. Song also looked over. Yu Jiao took this opportunity to introduce him to them. "Mom, Dad, this is my boyfriend, Zhang." He also politely greeted them. "Hello, Auntie, Uncle." Yu Jiao's aunt heard this and pouted contemptuously. "Boyfriend? Is he worthy? Let me see what kind of congratulatory gift this Grandmaster Zhang has prepared. Or maybe he didn't prepare anything at all." Zhang, he couldn't be bothered with her. He walked up to Mr. and Mrs. Song. He bowed his head and said, "Auntie, Uncle, this is a youth-preserving immortal pill I just refined. Taking it can keep you young forever and prolong your life." Hearing this, Jincheng scoffed. What kind of crap is that? It's the 21st century, and people still believe in this stuff." The people around also laughed along. At this moment, the box in Zhang Yi's hand was knocked away by someone. He looked up to see who was so rude. It turned out to be that money-grubbing aunt. She kept running her mouth. "Don't let that filthy stuff dirty our eyes. You and we are not in the same class." If you know what's good for you, get lost. Zhang, he narrowed his eyes at her and asked coldly, Auntie, are you still sane? Seeing his attitude, she became even angrier. She pointed aggressively. What's with you now? You dare scold me? Security, get him out of here for me. As soon as she finished speaking, security guard from outside rushed in. They surrounded Zhang Yi and started dragging him out. Seeing the scene, Yu Jiao immediately pleaded, Mom, tell them to stop. That's my boyfriend. Mrs. Song heard this, shook her head, and said calmly, Daughter, he and we are not from the same class. Don't worry about it anymore. Just let your aunt handle it. Zhang Yi was thus being taken away. No one spoke up for him. Just then, a man arrived with his entourage. This person was Zhou Yunqing, the mayor of Yunluo City. Just as he entered the banquet hall, he saw something. His eyes widened in astonishment. Yunqing immediately bent down and picked up the dark object lying on the ground. It was the medicinal pill that Zhang Yi had dropped. After examining it for a moment, beads of sweat appeared on his face. The smell and color of this were too incredible. At this moment, Father Song ran over to greet him. Isn't this Mayor Zhou? Welcome, your esteemed presence graces us. Mayor Zhou paid no attention. He looked up at them, frowned, and asked, I wonder who dropped these 2 pills here. Hearing these words, the faces of Mr. and Mrs. Song turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Could it be that filthy stuff has affected the mayor? Immediately, Mrs. Song hurriedly explained, Mayor Zhou, this was dropped by a servant. I've already kicked him out. Even Jin Cheng chimed in to remind, Mayor Fo, don't let this stuff dirty your hands. Throw it away quickly. Yunqing, hearing these idiotic words, angrily asked, What are you all talking about? This is a priceless, youth-preserving, immortal pill. Moreover, it's not sold on the market. These words made Jin Cheng's face turn pale green. He trembled and asked, Mayor Zhou, are you mistaken? This is just an ordinary pill. Not mistaken. With a light snort, Mayor Zhou said coldly, I have studied immortal pills for over 15 years. Do I need you to teach me? Seeing him angry, Jin Cheng hurriedly said, Yes, I was mistaken. The mayor couldn't be bothered with him and continued to ask, Where's the person you kicked out? These words made the 3 members of the Song family turn purple with fear. Yu Jiao, on the contrary, was very happy and spoke up, Over there. It's Zhang Yi. Immediately, Yunqing chased after Zhang Yi outside the door. Sir, please stop. Zhang Yi glanced at him, a bewildered look in his eyes. The mayor hurriedly asked, This, sir, may I ask, where did these 2 immortal pills come from? Did you? Nodding coolly, Zhang Yi said casually, I made these yesterday. I used an induction cooker to refine them. What, an induction cooker? Yunqing exclaimed in disbelief. He asked doubtfully, Sir, why didn't you use a pill refining furnace? Could it be that an induction cooker controls heat better? Zhang Yi shook his head and replied, Not really. It's because I don't have a refining furnace at home. The more Yunqing heard, the more bewildered he became. By chance, you could refine such high-grade immortal pills this way. In the entire Yunluo city, there's probably no second person like you. Thinking this, he immediately bowed respectfully and said, I never expected to meet a pill refining master. Today, I wonder if you can enlighten this old man a little. These words made Mrs. Song and Yu Jiao's aunt panic. That Jinsheng fellow was the same. He never would have dreamed that the thing they despised, Mayor Zhou, would treasure so much. Yu Jiao, on the contrary, was very happy. Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. Looking at them, he pouted and said, I'm afraid not today, because someone wanted to kick me out, you see. Saying this, he gave a malicious smile. Let them kick me out, huh? Yunqing, hearing that someone wanted to kick out his esteemed guest, immediately turned his head and asked fiercely, Who is it that wants to kick you out? The situation changed too quickly, frightening the aunt. She asked Mother Song in a low voice, What about this? Mrs. Song also hadn't expected the poor wretch in her eyes to attract Mayor Zhou's attention. Thinking this, she immediately smiled and said, Auntie, quickly go apologize. The Song family cannot afford to offend Mayor Zhou. Although the aunt was reluctant, she still walked over. She bowed her head and said, Mayor Zhou, it was my oversight. Please forgive me. Yunqing heard this and snorted coldly. You don't need to apologize to me. You should be apologizing to Grandmaster Zhang. She didn't dare offend the mayor, so she had to grit her teeth and bow to Zhang Yi. Grandmaster Zhang, it was my fault. Please. The gentleman doesn't hold grudges against a petty person. Her attitude had now changed. A fake smile appeared on her face. Zhang Yi snorted coldly, looked at her, and chuckled mockingly. Someone as lowly as me How dare I not accept an apology from such superior people? This kind of woman, being around Yu Jiao, will sooner or later cause trouble. Well, this time, I'll teach her a lesson. His attitude made the aunt extremely angry. Mrs. Song saw this and went to intervene. The aunt just received a slap. Mrs. Song angrily scolded, "Get out. Aren't you embarrassed enough being scolded in front of everyone?" The aunt felt humiliated. She could only run off crying. Mrs. Song then also approached Zhang Yi. She put on a fake smile and said, "Zhang Yi, I hope you can forgive her. She was just worried about Yu Jiao's happiness." Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes at her. He cursed inwardly. Damn it. This woman is also a wolf in sheep's clothing. In this Song family, besides Yu Jiao, there's probably no one good. At this moment, Yu Jiao also acted coquettishly towards him. Zhang Yi, please let it go with Annie. She just lost her temper for a moment. Zhang Yi looked at her smile. He felt a bit helpless inwardly. This girl is truly very kind. So kind she could be a saint. That aunt almost sold her out. Yet she's still magnanimously pleading for her. But there was no other way. Zhang Yi still agreed. Since you've said so, let's drop it. After such a commotion, the party finally began. Everyone sat down at the banquet tables, eating and drinking happily. Yunqing sat at the same table as Zhang Yi. He said happily, "Grandmaster Zhang, I have a formula here for a youth-preserving medicinal pill. Could you please see if there are any problems with it?" Saying so, he placed a piece of paper on the table. Zhang Yi took it and looked at it for a long time before speaking. "Overall, there are no major problems. I'll help you adjust it a bit. This Mayor Zhou seems to have a lot of research into the art of pill refining. If I help him now, I can ask him to find rare ingredients for me later." Zhang Yi thought while writing on the paper. A moment later, Yunqing took the paper and looked at it. His eyes involuntarily narrowed. He exclaimed in disbelief, "Amazing. Absolutely top-notch. This is truly a master of pill refining." Saying so, he looked at Zhang Yi again and said firmly, "Sir, if you need anything in the future, just let me know, and I will help you. I'll take my leave for today." Then he left with the paper. Over here, Jin Sheng had picked up his wine glass. He went to Mrs. Song and said, "Mother Song, I'm here today to propose to Yu Jiao." He asked what her and Mr. Song's opinion was. Saying this, he looked smugly at Zhang Yi. Trash will always be trash. You can't turn your father into Mayor Zhou. Now that Mayor Zhou is not here, let's see what you can do. While he was gloating, Father Song spoke up first. "I think this is a serious matter. It's best to let Yu Jiao decide for herself." Hearing this, Jin Sheng's face immediately turned ugly. Zhang Yi, however, was a little surprised. He didn't expect Father Song to say that. At this point, Jin Sheng asked, dissatisfied, "Then what is Mother Song's opinion?" Mrs. Song hadn't answered yet, because she was still hesitating. "If I agree to Zhao Jinsheng's proposal today, it would seem like I'm trying to separate the lovebirds. This Zhang, he seems to be no simple character. It's best not to provoke him further today." Thinking this, she immediately smiled and said, "I don't think today is suitable for an engagement. How about we discuss it another day?" The more Jin Sheng heard, the more annoyed he became. This woman had received many benefits from him and had even agreed to discuss his marriage to Yu Jiao today. Yet now, she had suddenly changed her tune. Thinking this, he looked towards the two of them on the other side. Yu Jiao was currently snuggled into Zhang Yi's embrace, saying coquettishly, "I've already told Mom and Dad. In this life, I'll only marry you." He also nodded and replied with a smile, "I won't let anyone take you away from my side." Watching them exchange loving glances, Jin Sheng became even more furious. He slammed the table and shouted, "Zhang Yi, you just wait. Let's go." Then he left with his men. Watching his retreating figure, Yu Jiao said with some worry, "Did I cause trouble for you again?" Zhang Yi gently shook his head and took off his glasses. He said coolly, "Not at all. Your business is my business. In this life, no one can separate us." Outside, Jin Sheng had gone out with his men. He was calling someone. When the other person answered, he said in a low voice, "Cousin." The person Jin Sheng called was Zihang. Zihang frowned and asked, "Cousin, from your tone, did someone provoke you again?" Jin Sheng heard this and snorted coldly. He said unhappily, "You still understand me best, cousin. Help me teach this guy a lesson, okay?" Zihang chuckled softly and asked, "Who's so unafraid of death that they dare provoke you, cousin?" Jin Sheng quickly said, "A bastard named Zhang Yi. Initially, I didn't plan to ask for your help, but now things are very serious." Zhang Yi, Zihans exclaimed in disbelief. "Is he a student from Yanhai City High School?" Jinsheng immediately replied, "Seems so. Yu Jiao is also a student at that school." Hearing the confirmation, Zihan's hurriedly guarned, "Gaoxi, this Zhangyi guy is not easy to deal with. I fought him last time. I was no match for him at all. Moreover, I feel this guy is very unpredictable." Ziheng wouldn't help. Jinsheng could only hang up the phone. He cursed in frustration. "Forget it, useless trash. Can't even beat a lowly student. How much benefit does he take from our family each year? Yet when it's important, he's no damn help at all. But it doesn't matter. Whatever he does is useless. The class difference can never be changed. So I will show Zhang how he will be tormented in my hands." Zhang Yi, of course, didn't know someone was plotting to harm him. He was currently focused on cultivating. He exhaled a breath of air, but his expression wasn't very happy. The spiritual energy on Earth is too thin. Cultivating to human king stage is too difficult. Thinking this, Zhang Yi immediately stood up. "I need to find a place with more spiritual energy." A moment later, he arrived at a mountain. Looking at the spiritual energy around, Zhang Yi couldn't help but wonder, where is this? The spiritual energy is all being absorbed by the yang qi over there. No wonder the spiritual energy here is so thin. Meanwhile, on another side of the mountain, a swarm of monsters was crawling on the ground. 3 people appeared out of nowhere, running for their lives. The chubby guy at the back kept lamenting, "Comrades, I've implicated everyone. Looks like we're about to meet marks die. I, fatty, am not afraid of anything, but I never expected to die like this." The 2 in front saw him falling behind. They hurriedly helped him. The other guy even scolded while helping. "Pang Zi, I told you not to casually take things." But at this moment, the monsters had surrounded them. Their numbers were vast. The monsters began to attack the 3 people. Just when they thought they were done for, the ground around them suddenly exploded. Someone had continuously intervened to help them. It turned out to be Zhang Yi. He descended from the sky. He asked doubtfully, "Are you guys Tomb Raiders?" Hearing this, they said, annoyed, "Comrade, speak with a little more respect. We're not Tomb Raiders. We are the Iron Triangle. The girl is Shueli, the fatty is Pang Zi, and the other one is Ba Yi." After hearing this, Zhang Yi pouted disdainfully. Basically, still a group of Tomb Raiders. These words made Pang Zi angry enough to want to hit someone, but he was stopped by Ba Yi. Just then, Shueli reminded them, "Stop talking. Those things are coming again." Pang Zi exclaimed in panic, "We're dead for sure this time. This is just an ordinary high school student. How can he save us?" But as soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Yi took action and wiped out the demons in front of him. The other 3 stared in amazement. Pang Zi exclaimed in disbelief, "Does this guy have magic powers? Are we in a cultivation novel?" Just then, from a nearby cave, a ferocious sound suddenly echoed. They immediately covered their ears and exclaimed in panic, "This sound must be the boss of these things." As soon as that sound came out, the small monsters swarmed over again, relentlessly chasing them. Shueli fell behind and was carried away by the small monsters. Pang Zi and Ba Yi worriedly chased after them, but the monsters were very fast and carried her into the cave. At this moment, Pang Zi patted Ba Yi's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, this time I brought the big stuff." As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his backpack. Inside were many guns. He raised an eyebrow at Zhang Yi and said, "Going in or not, this time I've got these. No matter what it is, your old Pang will blow it away." Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes, looking at them, thinking to himself, "It's a good time to go into the cave and see what that source of yang qi is. Going with these 2 clowns is fine too." Soon after, they went in. Whenever they saw a monster, they opened fire and eliminated it. They fired continuously without stopping. Pang Zi said proudly with a laugh, "Student, those little tricks of yours can't compare to this big stuff of mine. If you don't want to die, just stay behind me. If you run around recklessly, old Pang will leave you behind." At this point, Ba Yi advised, "Pang Zi, stop shooting, save your ammo." But he didn't care. He charged forward aggressively. "Quick, chase them. They're running away." Seeing this, Ba Yi cursed, somewhat annoyed. "Damn it, this fatty has run off ahead again." Zhang Yi, from behind, felt this was more ominous than auspicious. He's clearly asking for more trouble. A moment later, Pang Zi stopped. Ba Yi also caught up closely behind and said, "Pang Zi, don't chase recklessly." But as soon as he finished speaking, he saw a large spider in front of them. Ba Yi also saw Shueli in its grasp. She was encased in a layer of yellow slime. "Shueli," Ba Yi quickly said, While it's not paying attention, kill it quickly. But Pang Zi shook his head and replied, Bah, this thing is so big. Are we really its match? Don't worry about that. Quickly save Shueli, Bah, said fiercely. Then he opened fire. The bullets continuously hit the monster's body, but they had no effect at all. Bah iklamit in shock. The bullets aren't hurting at all. Just then, the monster spat slime towards them. Seeing this, Bah, panicked and shouted, Get out the grenade, quick! Pang Zi was very obedient. He took a grenade from his bag and threw it at the monster. He shouted fiercely, You damn thing. Today, old Pang will fight you to the death. Boom, a sound of explosion rang out in front of them. However, when the smoke and dust cleared, the monster was still standing, tall there, spitting slime to attack them. Pang Zi and Ba immediately panicked and cursed, Damn it, it's no use. Because of this, they were also caught by the monster's slime and dragged away. They tried to hold on, but it was useless. Pang Zi looked up at Zhang Yi in the distance and pleaded for help. Boss, save us. Zhang Yi replied sarjastija. You guys were so amazing just now. Your big stuff could fix it up nicely. I only have a few little tricks. Knowing he held a grudge for what happened earlier, Ba Yi hurriedly said, Boss, it's Pang Zi who doesn't know any better. I apologize on his behalf. Please save us quickly. Zhang Yi chuckled softly. All right, let me try. He began to channel spiritual energy in his hands. Immediately, he rushed forward. He threw a punch at the monster's giant body. This one move dented its body with a large hole. Pang Zi and Ba Yi saw this scene and exclaimed in disbelief, Oh my God, a boxing master. Zhang Yi looked at the monster before him, lost in thought. This thing has absorbed a lot of yin qi to nourish its body, but it hasn't formed even a bit of a spiritual root. No wonder one punch from me could crack its shell. Thinking this, he channeled spiritual power in his hands. Then he directly struck forward. Zhang Yi's stream of spiritual power quickly transformed into throwing darts, slashing at the monster's slime that was wrapped around Pang Zi and Ba Yi. Just then, something was flying towards Zhang Yi. It was a swarm of small monsters rushing over. As he fought them off, he cursed inwardly. The boss monster getting injured has angered these bugs. While Zhang Yi was thinking, a monster bared its fangs and claws at him. It bit his shoulder, making him wince. Zhang Yi angrily punched them, but when the smoke and dust cleared, another one attacked him. Zhang Yi snorted coldly and muttered, Coming again. This new punch only cracked your shell. This time I'll make you explode. But as soon as he finished speaking, his face immediately turned ugly. The bite wound was now poisonous. At this moment, its sharp claws stabbed towards him again. Zhang Yi, caught off guard, was stabbed in the chest. Fresh blood began to stain his shirt red. He fell down because of it. Pang Zi exclaimed in panic. We're done for. Boss is in trouble. Oh, boss saved us. We can't not repay him. At this moment, Ba Yi also chimed in. Pang Zi, come with me. Let's kill it and save boss. So, the two of them started firing at the monster. But not long after, was knocked away by it. Zhang Yi glanced at the two of them, a sense of admiration welling up inside him. He hadn't expected these Tomb Raiders to be so loyal. At the same time, the monster advanced towards him. Zhang Yi snorted coldly and muttered, The poison of these walking corpses. You think that can harm me? As soon as he finished speaking, he threw a punch at. Mucus started to drip from the monster's mouth. But Zhang Yi didn't stop. He continued with another punch towards it. This time, it made the monster fall backward. Zhang Yi let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, I have the Runwang body. Otherwise, I might have been done for by it. At this moment, Pang Zi suddenly shouted, Everyone look! Following his pointing hand, Zhang Yi saw a stream of black energy emanating from the cave. He frowned and thought, so the baleful aura comes from here. I was only focused on the boss earlier and didn't notice it. Zhang Yi stared intently at the cave below. After a long moment, he took a step forward and then jumped down. Seeing this, Pang Zi's group cried out in alarm. Boss! Ignoring their worries, Zhang Yi jumped down. He landed safely on the ground. Immediately after, he saw a monster in front of him. So this is why there's so much baleful aura here. Zhang Yi observed it for a long while and then speculated, perhaps this is the legendary treasure from folklore, the Tai Sui Rolingji. If that's the case, then the presence of so many of those bugs here makes sense. Legend says they feed on the corpses of the dead. So those bugs must be its weapons for killing people. While he was thinking, red threads from the Lingji's body suddenly shot out. They pierced straight into Zhang Yi's body. In just an instant, The red threads had wrapped around his entire body. But what was more surprising was, he found these things were eroding his consciousness. While Zhang Yi was thinking, a gloomy voice suddenly echoed, "Don't even try. No one has ever escaped my grasp." Zhang Yi was a bit startled. This monster has its own consciousness. The Tai Sui Ro Lingji let out a cold laugh and said, "It's too late for you to realize that now. You'll soon be a part of me." As soon as it finished speaking, the red threads tightened around Zhang Yi even more. The Lingji, extremely pleased, lifted him up, preparing to put him in its mouth. But at this moment, it saw something and cried out in disbelief. This person's body also has a great source of power. Indeed, right after, Zhang Yi's body emitted a faint golden light. It originated from his wrist. It was the Run Wong seal. In just an instant, the Lingji's threads were severed, causing it to cry out in terror. "What is this?" Zhang Yi chuckled smugly and said, "Luckily, I still have the Run Wong body to teach you a lesson." As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed the Lingji's red threads and cut them without a hint of hesitation. Seeing this, the Lingji shrieked in panic. "How can this be?" Zhang Yi paid it no mind, continuing to attack with the Run Wong seal in his hand. In an instant, its entire body seemed to melt, being absorbed into Zhang Yi's hand. It grew increasingly terrified. What on earth is this power? But no matter how scared it was, Zhang Yi still absorbed its entire body. Then he sat cross-legged on the ground and began to circulate his spiritual energy. A moment later, he raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Having absorbed so much baleful aura upon first arriving in this world, its power has increased significantly. Having been here for so long, it must have reached a pretty high level, and its red threads, they will definitely be useful." Above the cave, the three of them, Pang Zi, still sat there looking down. "Ba," he said in a low voice. "Boss still hasn't come up. It might be done for." Pang Zi also sighed and said, "What a pity Boss is still young, with a future ahead of him. Why did he suddenly jump down like that?" But as soon as he finished speaking, his eyes widened in astonishment because Zhang Yi flew up from below like a bird. Pang Zi regained his composure and joyfully exclaimed, "Boss, it's really you. You're not dead." Zhang Yi chuckled softly, not dead for the time being. Just then, he was suddenly startled. His phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Yu Jiao. She asked where Zhang Yi was. "Come to my house quickly. Something has happened." Seeing this message, he immediately frowned and thought, could Zhao Jinsheng be causing trouble again? But first, they had to get out of there. After reaching a safe place, Zhang Yi stopped. He glanced at the three of them and said, "All right, everyone, this is as far as we go. Let's say goodbye." Pang Zi nodded slightly and replied, "Take care, boss." Zhang Yi waved goodbye to them. Pang Zi quickly called out, "Boss, if you ever visit Beilu City, remember to let me, Pang Zi, know. I'll treat you to something else." At the Song family villa, they were receiving an uninvited guest. Madame Song glanced at the man and asked, "Manager Liu, what brings you here?" This man was a subordinate of a Zhao family. He smiled leisurely and said, "Sister, this time, young master, Zhao Jinsheng requests that you repay the Zhao family the 20 million debt. If you don't have it, you can mortgage your jewelry store." Hearing those words, Madame Song immediately cried out in alarm. The jewelry store was invested in by old Master Zhao. How can you just take it like that? Manager Liu chuckled coldly, his tone full of malice. "You still don't get it, do you? Old Master Zhao is old now. The Zhao family is now run by young Master Zhao Jinsheng. So, who has the final say? Surely you know by now, don't you?" Madame Song frowned fiercely and immediately blamed Zhang Yi. "It must be you who offended that Zhao fellow at the birthday party. Even if that poor guy knows many influential people, it's no match for having a rich father." At this time, the aunt beside her hurriedly poured tea, fawning. "Manager Liu, we were wrong this time. Could you make an exception for us?" Manager Liu chuckled softly. "It's not impossible, as long as you all agree to the marriage between the young master and Song." "Young miss," the young master said, "it can be reconsidered." As soon as these words were spoken, Yu Jiao ran over, shouting, "Stop them. Mom, don't agree." Mr. Song also spoke up, trying to persuade her. "Let the children decide their own marriage matters. You can't, for the sake of your career, destroy this family." However, as soon as he finished speaking, Madame Song slapped him across the face. She angrily scolded, "Well, if you had been a bit more of a man, When I've had to struggle so much all these years. Seeing their internal conflict, Manager Liu became even more smug. He raised an eyebrow and asked, "Big sister, so what now? Agree or not agree?" But just as he finished speaking, a foot kicked him in the back. Zhang Yi burst through the door and said coolly, "Not agree." Manager Liu, angered by the interruption, criticized, "You rotten kid, who are you?" Zhang Yi twisted his arm and snorted coldly, "I'm your father." Manager Liu's hand was firmly held by him, the pain causing cold sweat to bead on his forehead. He gritted his teeth and ordered, "Get him for me." Hearing this, the subordinates beside him immediately rushed forward to attack. However, the fist, before it could even touch Zhang Yi's face, was deflected. This scene made the three members of the Song family tremble with fear. In less than 10 seconds, a group of people were all on the ground. He sneered and said, "Go back and tell Zhao Jinsheng." He picked on the wrong person. The group, having been beaten, were terrified and didn't dare to stay any longer. So, they hurriedly left. At this moment, Madame Song still didn't know who he was, or how he possessed such great martial strength. Right then, Yu Jiao rushed into Zhang Yi's arms and cried, "I was so scared." He patted her head comfortingly. "I'm here, don't be afraid." Seeing the two of them hugging, Madame Song hurriedly shouted, "Zhang Yi, let go of Yu Jiao. Fighting won't solve this problem." The aunt also chimed in, "If we can't keep this jewelry store, it's all your fault." Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow, looked at them, and said with a slight smile, "This jewelry store, however much it costs, I'll buy it. Then it will belong to Yu Jiao." Hearing this, the aunt immediately sneered, "A poor wretch like you wants to buy this store? Go take a look in the mirror." Madame Song also didn't believe he had the money. She said gravely, "I know you want what's best for you, Jiao, but now the Zhao family is demanding 20 million. Where are we going to get that kind of money?" Zhang Yi spoke with extreme determination. "Aunt Song, don't worry. Give me 2 days. I will bring 20 million to you." The aunt looked as if she had heard a joke. Her scornful laughter echoed throughout the Song family villa. "What are you saying, 20 million? I doubt you even have 20,000. Even Madame Song didn't believe it and sighed. "Zhang Yi, 20 million is not a small sum. I can give you 2 days. Taking this opportunity, she set a condition to get rid of Zhang Yi. "If you don't have enough, then from now on, you and Yu Jiao must sever ties." That way, she could use it as an excuse to agree to the marriage between Yu Jiao and Jinsheng. But Zhang Yi had no shortage of back. He agreed without hesitation. "No problem." After leaving the Song residence, he called Lao Xia. Before 3 rings, he picked up. Zhang Yi got straight to the point about his problem. "Zhao Jinsheng of the Zhao family in Yunluo City. Do you know him?" Lao Xia frowned and replied, "Before his father was still in charge, we had some contact. After it changed his son, we no longer had contact." "What's wrong?" Zhang Yi replied calmly, "Help me investigate Zhao Jinsheng." Then he said, "I don't want to see the Zhao family in Yunluo anymore." Hearing this from him, Guoxiong spoke with some difficulty. "So it's about this. Coincidentally, I also have evidence of Zhao Jinsheng's crimes here. But there's something." Hearing the difficulty in his voice, Zhang Yi frowned and asked, "What is it?" Lao Xia thought for a moment before speaking. "This matter is very complicated. If Grandmaster Zhang has free time, could you come over to my place? I will personally hand the documents to you." "All right, I'll be right there." Zhang Yi agreed without a second thought. After all, he had nothing else to do. Meanwhile, at the Zhao family store, after Manager Liu and his men returned, Jinsheng was furious. He had just called the Song family. So angry, he slammed the table. He aggressively questioned Madame Song. "Madame Song, what do you mean by this? And you even beat my men up like this?" On the other end, Madame Song's panicked voice quickly came through. No, young Master Zhao, please listen to me." Jinsheng listened in silence. A moment later, he spoke. "Is that so? If he doesn't produce 20 million in 2 days, then you will refuse?" Having received a satisfactory answer, he hung up. A look of triumph flashed in his eyes. "Zhang Yi, in 2 days, I will crush you under my foot. I'll let you know the difference between a human and a dog." Elsewhere at Guoxiong's house, Zhang Yi sat opposite him and asked suspiciously, "Lao Xia, what exactly is this evidence of crime you mentioned? Why so mysterious?" "Grandmaster Zhang, please take a look." He pushed a stack of documents towards him. Zhang Yi took them and opened them to look. In an instant, his eyes involuntarily narrowed. The hand holding the documents also trembled. Zhang Yi pursed his lips and asked, "You have these documents. Why didn't you hand them over to the authorities?" He suspected Could the Xia family and the Zhao family be colluding? It's no wonder he was so angry. Were photos of that scoundrel, Zhao, Jinsheng trafficking, underage children, engaging in debauchery, committing every evil deed. He was only missing the fascist nationality. Lao Xia then said in a low voice, Grandmaster Zhang, you're overthinking. Although I, Xia Guoxiong, am not entirely a man of perfect integrity, I would never get involved in such vile and dirty matters. But this matter involves many people. Although the Xia family is in Yunluo, we don't have much power. The government is complex. I'm afraid I can't handle it. Hearing this, Zhang Yi sighed helplessly. All right, I understand. Lao Xia was startled and looked at him doubtfully, asking, Grandmaster Zhang, what do you plan to do? If there's anything Xia Guoxiong can help with, I will definitely do my best. Zhang Yi thought for a moment before speaking. Mayor Zhou Yunqing of Yunluo. What kind of person is he? Is he involved in these matters? Guoxiong knew this person. He shook his head slightly and replied, Probably not. I haven't had much contact with Zhou Yunqing, but I've heard he's an upright man. Hearing this, Zhang Yi was satisfied and said, That's enough then. This Zhao Jinsheng has done such dirty things. I will not let him off. 2 days later, at the Zhao family villa, Madame Song and Yu Jiao had arrived as per the agreement. After waiting for a long time and seeing no one, Madame Song asked Yu Jiao doubtfully, The 2-day deadline is up. Why haven't we been able to contact Zhang? Jinsheng, sitting on the side, heard this and curled his lip in disdain. Probably couldn't make it. So he ran away, huh? Yu Jiao didn't answer. She was worried something had happened to Zhang Yi. While everyone was feeling anxious, a voice suddenly rang out. So sorry. Yu Jiao immediately looked up. Then she saw Zhang Yi walking over. He waved and greeted. I'm late. Yu Jiao excitedly rushed into his arms. What have you been doing these past 2 days? Why didn't you contact me? I was worried something happened to you. Seeing Zhang Yi, Jinsheng's face turned purple with anger. You actually dare to show up? Today, he would make sure Zhang Yi wouldn't be coming back. Zhang Yi, of course, was unaware of his thoughts. He smiled gently at Yu Jiao and said, It was just some matters that needed resolving. I made you worry. Right at this moment, Jinsheng couldn't help but interrupt. Zhang Yi, you finally showed up. I thought you couldn't scrape enough money together. And ran off. He looked up at him and said with a calm smile, I wouldn't dare to make young Master Zhao worry. I prepared the 20 million. However, young Master Zhao, you need to sign the contract before you can get the money. This jewelry store will belong to Yu Jiao. Yu Jiao's detestable aunt became even more impatient at this point. She interjected, Why so much talk? If you have the money, bring it out. I don't believe you have 20 million. If it weren't for her being Yu Jiao's relative, Zhang, you would definitely deal with this wretched woman. He paid them no mind, took out his phone, and typed on the keypad. He was messaging Lao Xia to transfer the money. Only then did Zhang Yi calmly say, 20 million has been transferred to the account you provided. The transfer is complete. Please check. Jinsheng still didn't believe it at this point. He tilted his chin and ordered his subordinate. Check if 20 million was just transferred in. Seeing how confident he was, the aunt exclaimed in disbelief. This Zhang Yi really is 20 million. Madame Song beside her replied in a low voice. It's hard to say. This Zhang Yi is hard to read. Right at this moment, the scoundrel Zhao's subordinate suddenly exclaimed, Young Master Zhao, an account under the name Zhang Yi just transferred 20 million. As soon as these words were out, Jinsheng's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Even the 2 members of the Song family were no exception. Zhang Yi ignored their reactions, took out the contract, and said, I've prepared the contract. Young Master Zhao, please sign and stamp it. Jinsheng didn't answer, so he raised an eyebrow and reminded him. What's wrong, young Master Zhao? Are you planning to go back on your word? Biting his lip fiercely, he said reluctantly, Fine, bring the seal here. Immediately after, he stamped the contract. The Song family members immediately changed their attitude. Madame Song smiled fawningly. Zhang Yi, the first time I met you, Auntie knew you weren't an ordinary person. The aunt also chimed in. You are truly our benefactor. Zhang Yi had no intention of giving them face. He directly squeezed the aunt's hand tightly. He warned in a cold voice, You are Yu Jiao's aunt, so I'll let you off this time. Next time you dare to use Yu Jiao in your schemes, I definitely won't spare you. Zhang Yi's entire body now exuded a thick murderous aura, making others fearful. The aunt trembled and shook her head, assuring, I wouldn't dare, I wouldn't dare. Seeing this, Yu Jiao wanted to intervened, but Zhang Yi, knowing this, spoke first. Let's go. However, they had only taken 2 steps when the scoundrel Zhao called out to them, "Hey, Zhang Yi, you want to leave?" He stopped and glanced at him. He asked doubtfully, "So, does young master Zhao have some business?" But as soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Yi's eyes suddenly narrowed because he saw Zihang walking out from inside. "Isn't this the guy who was defeated by me the other day?" And the person beside him, his qi is very strong. This person is Zhao Shiri, the head of Hong Yi Martial Arts Hall. With those 2 approaching, Jin Sheng became even more smug and said, "Zhang Yi, do you think this is a place you could just come and go?" "As you please." Shiri walked up to Zhang Yi at this moment, his attitude arrogant. He said, "You 2 eagerly sought me out. I came here to see a master, but I didn't expect just a kid." Having learned his lesson before, Zihang hurriedly advised, "Uncle, this Zhang Yi's techniques are very strange. You must be careful." On the contrary, Jin Sheng, being truly brainless, boasted, "Zihang, your uncle is an ancient martial arts master. He has no rivals in this Yunluo, let alone some." Zhang Yi, seeing the situation was not good, Yu Jiao quickly stepped forward to dissuade Zhao Jinsheng. "If Zhang Yi accidentally offended you before, on his behalf, I apologize. Can you let us go today?" Madame Song also stepped forward to plead. "That's right, the 20 million has already been paid to you. Please, for my sake, let it go." However, Jin Sheng laughed loudly and boasted, "Let it go, unless Zhang Yi kneels down, apologizes to me, and promises to leave Yunluo forever. Otherwise, we settle all scores today." Hearing these words from him, Zhang Yi decided to deal with him right away. He took a few steps forward, then spoke coldly, "Zhao Jinsheng, I didn't intend to make a move today, but it seems you're determined to seek death, huh?" Zihang, at this point, said resentfully, "Zhang, no matter how you are, you're no match for my uncle. I advise you to kneel and apologize." However, Zhang Yi clicked his tongue contemptuously. "Whatever ancient martial arts master he is, I don't think this uncle of yours is up to much. How about all 3 of you come at me at once?" These words directly made Shiri's blood boil. He immediately roared, "Kid, are you trying to provoke me? Today, I will teach you how to be a proper human being." As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately rushed towards Zhang, launching a palm strike full of spiritual energy. However, his palm strike was blocked by him. As easy as pie, he shouted loudly, his aura erupting at the same time. In Shiri's eyes, his pupils contracted involuntarily. He couldn't react in time, and was pushed back by Zhang Yi's spiritual energy. Only when he landed safely on the ground did he click his tongue and say, "This aura is that of a martial arts master. I didn't expect someone so young to have such power." Hearing this, Jin Sheng recovered and exclaimed, "What? Zhang Yi is also a martial arts grandmaster." Madame Song behind him was also very surprised. She asked Yu Jiao doubtfully, "What exactly is his background? How is he becoming less and less like a normal high school student?" Yu Jiao shook her head slightly and replied, "I don't know either." Of course, she didn't know. Zhang Yi was now a reincarnated immortal emperor. At this moment, Shiri suddenly stopped fighting and advised, "I have no grudge against you, as long as you are willing to apologize. You and my nephew can erase all enmity. I can also consider taking you as my disciple." Snorting lightly, Zhang Yi said disdainfully, "On what grounds do you want me to be your disciple? You're too arrogant." These words made Shiri's mad dog blood boil again. He started pointing and scolding, "Kid, though we are both martial arts grandmasters, you've only just entered the initial stage, but I'm about to reach the peak stage. Although it's only 1 stage difference, the difference in power is immense. I advise you to be sensible." Snorting coldly, Zhang Yi curled his lip and said, "Who told you I only have the power of an ancient martial arts grandmaster? Your unusual strength." Shiri exclaimed in disbelief, but due to the shock, the words he was about to say got stuck in his throat, unable to form a sentence. At the same time, Zhang Yi's aura erupted. In an instant, he rushed in front of him. His speed was so fast the naked eye couldn't see it. Shiri couldn't keep up with the move, and was thus pushed back by him. His arm was also struck and bruised. He exclaimed in disbelief, "This is the power of an ancient martial arts Zongshi, Grandmaster/Patriarch. Impossible." While he was in a daze, Zhang Yi appeared before him again. Then, without a word, he slapped him across the face. Shiri couldn't dodge in time, so so he was beaten by him like a dog with a dog tail. He rolled on the ground 10 meters away from him, but immediately after, he defiantly rushed up again. Shiri threw a palm strike towards Zhang Yi's head. Unfortunately, before it could even touch him, his arm was caught by him, held tightly by Zhang Yi. Shiri's face turned deathly pale from the pain, drained of all blood. Feeling that he couldn't hold on any longer, he immediately shouted, "What are you doing? Run!" Zihang and the other one were very sensible. They quickly tucked tail and fled. Unfortunately, how could Zhang Yi give him that chance? He snorted coldly and said, "Wanna run?" As soon as these words were spoken, countless red threads appeared from his two hands. He said with murderous intent, "Today, you all must die here." In just an instant, the red threads wrapped around Zihang and the other one like rice dumplings. Zhang Yi dragged them across the ground, causing them to scream in terror. "Uncle, save me." Shiri, at this point, couldn't even fend for himself, let alone save others. He was beyond help. He looked at Zhang Yi in fear. What kind of demonic thing is this? However, with the dignity of the head of a martial arts hall, he tried to struggle, pursing his lips and saying, "You think these mere threads can trouble me?" Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes and looked at him coldly, warning, "Don't resist futilely anymore." In just an instant, the three members of the Zhao family, uncle and nephews, were tightly bound by the red threads. Their 7 orifices began to ache. Shiri quickly realized what these things were. They could suck human blood. Right at this moment, Zhang Yi laukit minya kelly. His appearance at this moment was terrifying. Yu Jiao ran over in a panic. If she hadn't stopped Zhang Yi, today would surely have been the first death anniversary of these three. He said coldly, "These people don't deserve sympathy." Fortunately, at this moment, the sound of police sirens suddenly came from outside. Zhao Jinsheng's group, having just escaped death, now clutched at this lifeline. Many police cars appear before them. A police officer quickly got out of the car and asked coldly, "Where is Zhao Jinsheng?" Hearing this, Jinsheng quickly stood up and accused, "Captain Zhang, I'm here. Save me. Someone wants to kill me. It's this person. He wants to kill us. Quickly arrest him." However, Captain Zhang took out an arrest warrant and then said, "Zhao Jinsheng, you are suspected of being involved in an organization, trafficking underage children. I am now arresting you. This is the warrant." Hearing this, Zhang Yi immediately smiled smugly. Zhou Yunqing finally made his move. Why did he say that? Of course, it was because he had previously taken the evidence to Mayor Zhou. After seeing it, he was furious. He couldn't believe Deputy Mayor Lin would do such a thing. Unbelievable. And so, he decided to arrest everyone, not missing a single one. All those involved must be held responsible for this. After that, Yunqing even thanked Zhang Yi for providing the evidence. He promised not to let any of those animals slip through the net. He was so upright. Zhang Yi was naturally very reassured. So, he shook hands and entrusted everything to him to handle. That's why today's events happened. Jinsheng didn't know why he was exposed, but he still adamantly denied it. Trafficking underage children? What are you talking about? Captain Zhang, are you mistaken about something? Saying that, he even pointed towards Zhang Yi and accused. Clearly this person wants to kill us. Why aren't you arresting him, but arresting me instead? Are you accomplices? I want to see Bureau Chief Chen. Captain Zhang snorted coldly and said, "Bureau Chief Chen can't even fend for himself right now. How would he have time to care about you?" As soon as these words were spoken, the expression on Jinsheng's face froze. He unconsciously looked towards Zhang Yi. Could this matter be his doing? But it's impossible. A nobody like him. How could he know what they were doing? No matter what he thought. The police now wanted to take him back for question. Even as he was being taken away, Jinsheng still struggled. "Don't touch me. I want to see my lawyer." What lawyer could save him now? Seeing this, Zihang asked worriedly, "Uncle, what do we do now?" Shiri, being sensible, said, "Never mind, let's run." So, the two of them turned tail and fled. Zhang Yi noticed their actions, but didn't pursue them. He snorted coldly and said, "Today, I'll spare your dog lives, but not next time." After everything was settled, by nightfall, Zhang Yi finally returned to the school dormitory. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Zhou Hao waiting for him. He said cheerfully, "Boss, you're finally back. I was just about to go look for you." Zhou Hao's expression was very happy at this moment, making Zhang Yi ask suspiciously, "What's wrong?" Zhou Hao hesitated for a long time before speaking. "Yang Yin from the English department, the one I told you about the other day. She agreed to my confession. Tonight, there's a party to make it public, with her and her best friends. Oh right, Zhang Yi frowned upon hearing this, suddenly remembered. In his previous life it was tonight that this guy got his leg broken and had to use a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Truly, some people are just hopeless, even after reincarnation. Seeing his unhappy expression, Zhou Hao hesitated and said, "Boss, what's wrong? If you have something to do, you don't have to go. It's okay." Those who broke his brother Zhang Yi's leg in the previous life, how could he let them off? A gentleman's revenge, even in the next life, is not too late. He patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Go? Of course I'm going. How could I not? I must make them pay the price." A moment later, at a luxurious nightclub near the school, Zhou Hao and Zhang Yi finally appeared. Zhou Hao waved and called out, "Yang Yan." A short-haired female student replied, "Zhou Hao, you're here. Come, sit here." Zhou Hao immediately sat down. Yang Yan said affectionately, "Give me a kiss," making him blush deeply. Just then, someone noticed Zhang Yi. He pointed at him to draw attention, then said mockingly, "Isn't this Zhang Yi, the famously timid guy in our school? Zhou Hao, why did you bring him here?" Hearing this, Zhou Hao immediately became angry and scolded. "Huang Su, don't be rude. Zhao Zihong from the Martial Arts Society was punched by my boss." But he replied disdainfully, "Who would believe you?" He got angry and wanted to hit him, but Zhang Yi spoke up and stopped him. "It's okay, don't argue with him." Zhou Hao obediently nodded. Then he took out a box and gave it to Yang Yan. "See if you like it. It's a gift for you." Seeing the expensive necklace, Yang Yan exclaimed excitedly, "This necklace is worth tens of thousands." Even her friend, sitting beside her, sighed in a low voice. "Yang Yan, you have good eyes. You quickly found such a good spare tire. So decent and rich." Yang Yan shyly denied it. But in reality, she was a professional gold digger. At this moment, her friend cried out in alarm, "Yang Yan, Xingu is coming over." Yang Yan immediately looked over in panic and saw a man with a scarred face approaching. He looked at her and smiled. "Yang Yan, so you're here. Come with me." Saying that, he immediately grabbed her hand and pulled her up. But at this moment, Zhou Hao suddenly attacked, sending Xingu flying onto the banquet table in front of him. This enraged him, and he quickly ordered, "You brat, are you looking to die? Get him from me." As soon as these words were out, a group of underlings rushed forward and surrounded Zhou Hao, ganging up on him. No one stepped in to help. Seeing this, Yang Yan's friend spoke up. "What now?" The girl pouted and said, "What else can be done? He's the one who provoked Xingu. I'm out of options too." Zhang Yi, who had been sitting in a corner, overheard their entire conversation. He immediately understood in his heart. It turned out they were a bunch of scumbags. Instantly, he stood up from his chair and walked forward. Without a word, he directly subdued those thugs. Zhang Yi helped Zhou Hao up while lecturing him. "See that? Your so-called friends are all worse than dogs and pigs. If I weren't here, you'd be spending the rest of your life in a wheelchair." Xingu, having been beaten, was furious. He grabbed a beer bottle, rushed forward, and yelled, "I can't believe someone dares to hit me. Today, I'll cripple all of you." However, before he could even touch Zhang, he was sent flying by a kick from him. Outside, the two girls, Yang Yan, witnessing this scene, was stunned. She exclaimed in disbelief, "Didn't they say Zhang Yi was a cowardly good-for-nothing? How did he suddenly become so formidable?" Feeling like she had found a strong backer, Yang Yan immediately ran over, smiling fawningly. "Zhou Hao, so your friend is this capable, huh? If you had said so earlier, we wouldn't have had to be afraid of Changge." While speaking, she even put on a seductive posture, rubbing against Zhang. Unfortunately, this strong backer doesn't accept trash and dogs. He directly reached out and grabbed Yang Yan by the neck. He asked coldly, "Have you no shame? In his previous life, Zhou Hao's leg was broken because of you, forcing him into a wheelchair for life. Today, you'll have to leave something behind too." Seeing Yang Yan being choked to the point of breathlessness, Zhou Hao rushed over to stop him. "Boss, let it go. I'm not seriously hurt now anyway." Zhang Yi thought for a moment, then channeled spiritual energy into his palm. He snorted coldly and said, "In his previous life, he was in a wheelchair for life. For the next half a year, he can be in a wheelchair." As soon as he finished speaking, he punched Yang Yan in the stomach, causing her to scream in pain. Just as Zhang Yi released her, the phone in his pocket suddenly vibrated. He quickly answered, "Xiao Wu, what's wrong?" Wu Gang on the other end replied frantically, "Master Zhang, something's happened. That old man Dongfang has sent people to the Hongchang Martial Arts Hall to cause trouble. Moreover, Zhu Ri of the Hongyi Martial Arts Hall has also surrendered. Old Xia is also not in Yunluo. He doesn't know what to do now." Zhang Yi frowned upon hearing this and asked, Hongchong Martial Arts Hall. Is the head instructor Yi Hongchong, right? Wugong replied casually. Yes, Master Zhang. You know head instructor Yi? With a slight chuckle, he replied nonchalantly. An old friend. You head over there. I'll be there shortly. After speaking, Zhang Yi looked at Zhou Hao and said, Fatty, I have to go back first. There's something I need to take care of. Meanwhile, at the Hongchong Martial Arts Hall, a group of people had gathered. Head instructor Yi Hongchong stood at the entrance, furiously scolding Tianzong. Your martial way has acted rudely many times. Now you even bring outsiders. Want to take over all the martial arts halls in Yunluo. Dongfang Wuxin heard this and sneered disdainfully. You people talk about righteousness and morality all day long. I see it as just an excuse for weakness. The martial way in Yunluo will reach its peak. Under my leadership, the more Hongchong heard, the angrier she became. Nonsense. Dongfang Wuxin, come here and fight. Today, I absolutely will not let you succeed. Wuxin laughed smugly. I'm not fighting you today. This is the person I invited. Mr. Lu Chuan. Saying that, he gestured towards a man in a cloak behind him. The man immediately removed his cloak, revealing his true face. Seeing this, Hongchong was startled and surprised. You're Lu Chuan? It was said that this Lu Chuan had defeated several martial arts halls in Yunluo within 2 days, and all in a single move. She hadn't expected him to be just a young man in his early 30s. With him making a move, the old devil Dongfang became even more smug and provocative. Yi Hongchong, you make the first move. Mr. Lu Chuan always gives his opponent the first move, because if he strikes, he will surely win. Hearing these words, Fang Xianxian beside her flared up. Too arrogant. Let me do it. You're not worthy to fight my master. However, before she could step forward, Hongchong stopped her. Xianxian, step back. Xianxian looked at her master's determined expression and had no choice but to retreat a few steps. At this moment, Hongchong assumed a stance and said in a deep voice, Mr. Lu Chuan, then I won't be polite. As soon as she finished speaking, she threw a punch forward. Seeing this punch, Xianxian was immediately shocked. Even the old devil Dongfang was no less panicked. Lu Chuan still wore a smug smile. Qiong Fist is Hongchong's ultimate technique. I didn't expect her to use her strongest move right from the start. Moreover, she has reached the peak. She's only in her early 30s, yet already a grandmaster. But that's all there is to it. He casually raised his hand and blocked it. This astonished Hongchong. Her eyes widened as she looked at Lu Chuan. He actually blocked her strongest move. At this moment, he smiled disdainfully. Too weak. Ancient martial arts are truly weak. Hongchong's face was now extremely alarmed because her hand was locked by Lu Chuan's icebone technique. Unable to withdraw her hand, Lu Chuan saw her expression and smiled contemptuously, not worth mentioning at all. As soon as he finished speaking, he created an icebone blade and thrust it towards Hongchong, laughing smugly. Today, I will defeat one of the 4 strongest martial arts halls in Yunluo City. Seeing this, Xianxian panicked and ran forward, wanting to stop him. In this critical moment, hanging by a thread, a pair of hands suddenly appeared, stopping the icebone sword. A surge of energy was also transferred into the sword's body. The one who intervened was Zhang. He raised an eyebrow and asked, Do you know about Zhang Shenhai? Upon seeing him, Wuxin shouted in dissatisfaction, It's you. Last time, it was also you who ruined my plans. Xianxian, standing nearby, was also startled to see him. This is Zhang Yi. Is he really your classmate? Only Lu Chuan was smug. He sneered, You're finally here. Last time, I was careless and got injured by you. Although you're very strong, you're still no match for me. Zhang Yi ignored him and asked coldly again, I'm asking you now. Do you know Zhang Shenhai? Why ask such a question? A few years ago, at his home in the countryside, a group of unknown people suddenly appeared, wanting his father, Zhang Shenhai, to hand something over. He feared for his wife and child, shook his head and said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have what you need. At that time, Zhang Yi hadn't started martial arts training yet, so naturally, he didn't understand. He suspiciously asked his mother, What's happening, Mom? But she didn't answer. Zhang Yi's father spoke first. Yin Hui, quickly take our son and go. Go. His mother still hesitated, not wanting to abandon him. But he yelled at her, urging, Go, go. After some thought, Yin Hui finally ran over, grabbed Zhang Yi's hand, and pulled him away. He looked anxiously at his father, his voice trembling, Mom, Dad is still. At that moment, Shanhai was surrounded by a group of strangers, and the final move they used was precisely the ice-bone technique, just like Lu Chuan had just used. Returning to the present, Lu Chuan snorted coldly at him, pursed his lips and said, "What Zhang Shenhai? Never heard of him. Worry about others later. Worry about yourself first." Hearing these words, Zhang, he was slightly startled. Because his hand was covered by a layer of ice bone, Lu Chuan became even more smug and laughed loudly. Once you're caught, don't even think about escaping. At the same time, Wu Gang and old Xia finally appeared. Wu Gang anxiously exclaimed, "We're doomed. Master Zhang and head instructor Yi are in trouble. I have to help them." However, before he could go, Guoxiong stopped him. "Don't rush. Master Zhang will have a way." Just as old Xia said, at that very moment, a hand was placed on Hongchang's waist. In an instant, Zhang Yi shattered that layer of ice bone. Seeing this, Lu Chuan's face turned black as the bottom of a pot. He exclaimed in disbelief, "How is this possible?" Whether he believed it or not, Zhang Yi had already rescued Hongchang. He flew towards Guoxiong and said, "Old Xia, I'll leave head instructor Yi in your care." After speaking, he glanced at Lu Chuan in the distance, smiled and said, "Interesting. Since returning to this world, this is the first time I've met a worthy opponent." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Yi lifted his foot and flew off. He said coldly, "Whatever moves you have left, bring them all out." Lu Chuan stared at him, snorted coldly, and said, "You're seeking your own death. I won't hold back." Immediately after, the sword in his hand slashed out a series of ice blades. However, Zhang Yi created a protective barrier to block them. Seeing this, Lu Chuan exclaimed in horror, "How can this be?" Hongchang outside also asked old Xia doubtfully, "Who is this young man? His strength is immense." Guoxiong replied calmly, "Master Zhang is a grandmaster whom old Xia has recently befriended." Hearing these words, Hongchang's eyes involuntarily narrowed. Such a young grandmaster? Over here, Zhang Yi successfully blocked Lu Chuan's ice blades. Then, he clenched his fist and rushed forward. "So bored. Is this all you've got? Take a taste of my human king fist." However, before he could touch him, a layer of golden armor appeared on Lu Chuan's chest. He provoked smugly, "You can't break through my ice armor." Zhang, he didn't care. His punch still came down coldly. Lu Chuan was still confident in his armor, standing there arrogantly. Unfortunately, arrogance leads to meeting one's ancestors, only to see in Zhang Yi's hand a faint golden energy suddenly appeared. Instantly, Lu Chuan spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Even the golden armor was shattered. Zhang Yi looked at him coldly and said in a low voice, Even if you don't speak, I have ways to make you open your mouth." He wanted to see if this bastard Lu Chuan would still deny it. Instantly, a surge of spiritual power appeared in his hand, enveloping his body. This was the soul control technique Zhang Yi learned in his previous life. Seeing this, Wu Xin outside became even more horrified. What is the background of this person? Even Lu Chuan, a master of ancient martial arts, couldn't resist. Just then, old Xia also came over from the other side and asked doubtfully, "Master Zhang, this is Zhang Yi replied calmly. He's related to the people who broke my father's legs." Hearing these words, old Xia immediately spoke up. "Master Zhang, the other day, I personally went to Yinjing. I found out that the person who attacked your father back then is connected to Sun Jiang from Yinjing." Zhang Yi frowned slightly, suspiciously asking, "And Li Xiaoru?" He replied gravely, "Like Sun Jiang, both are from Yinjing." Zhang Yi clenched his fists upon hearing this. As expected, everything was planned from the beginning. They used him to get to his father. Thinking of this, Zhang Yi created a sound isolating barrier, separating the three of them from everyone outside. Only then did he ask coldly, "Speak, do you know Zhang Shenhai?" Lu Chuan, now like a machine, dazedly replied, reporting to Master, "This lowly one does not know Zhang Shenhai." Zhang Yi frowned slightly. It seemed the man in black who attacked his father wasn't him. Thinking this, he continued to ask, "Tell me your background clearly." Lu Chuan slowly replied, reporting to Master, "This lowly one comes from the Nine Nether organization." Hearing this name, old Xia, standing beside him, exclaimed in alarm, "The Nine Nether organization?" Zhang Yi glanced at him. He slowly explained, "The Nine Nether organization is an assassin organization that has been active for hundreds of years. Before the 1930s, it was a well-known and active organization. Many heads of state and politicians were assassinated by them, causing outrage in many countries. It gathered many of the strongest ancient warriors, but eventually they slowly disappeared. Since then, the organization became quiet and gradually vanished. Zhang Yi became furious upon hearing this. He grabbed Lu Chuan by the collar, aggressively questioning, "Where is that organization? Why do they harm my father?" But just at this moment, Lu Chuan's mouth suddenly vanished. He couldn't speak another word. Zhang Yi hurriedly used spiritual power to adjust the soul control technique, but unfortunately it failed. This startled him. At this moment, Lu Chuan suddenly clutched his head and screamed. Zhang Yi observed him for a long while before speaking. Lu Chuan's mind has been controlled by someone else's technique. Damn, my soul control technique actually failed. At this moment, Lu Chuan let out another loud scream. Then he stood up and ran away, continuously shouting, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" Guo Xiong wanted to catch him, but Zhang Yi stopped him. "Old Xia, no need to pursue. In his current state, he's clearly insane. Catching him would be useless." Seeing that he had resolved his own matter, Hong Chang approached, bowed respectfully and said, "Thank you, Master Zhang, for your help. This Hong Chang will never forget it." Zhang Yi smiled faintly and replied casually, "Sister Hong Chang, you're too kind. In the future, Sister Hong Chang's matters are Zhang Yi's matters. In his previous life, when he was at his most desperate, it was she who helped him. In this life, he would definitely repay her." Remembering that, a gentle expression appeared on Zhang Yi's face. After a moment, he looked towards old man Dongfang's group and ordered, "Old Xia, I'll leave them to you to handle. I only have one request. Don't let me see them in Yunluo again." Old Xia nodded slightly and replied, "Understood, Master Zhang." After giving his instructions, Zhang Yi left. Hong Chang watched his receding figure, feeling like she had met him somewhere before. Just then, Old Xia suddenly shouted an order, "Everyone listen up. Deal with this unscrupulous Dongfang group for me." As soon as these words were spoken, Wuxin's group was scared to the point of wetting their pants. Over here, after leaving the Hanchang Martial Arts Hall, Zhang Yi returned. He walked while thinking. It seems that currently, Li Xiaoru and Sun Jiang had a plan from the beginning. Their target was his father, Zhang Shenhai, an ancient assassin organization. Wouldn't just randomly cause trouble for an ordinary family without reason. So why did they seek out his parents? No matter how Zhang Yi thought about it, he felt his parents were definitely hiding something. Their identities were surely not simple. But no matter what, he would definitely destroy this Nine-Nether organization. The next day, at the university building, Zhou Hao and Zhang Yi were heading to class. Zhou Hao spoke as he walked. "Boss, when did you get back last night? You've been missing for days. If you hadn't come back, the academic advisor would have come looking for you at home." Zhang Yi chuckled. "Didn't I come back now?" While the two were talking, a voice suddenly rang out, startling him. It was Xian running from a distance and hugging his arm, exclaiming excitedly, "Master Zhang, no, classmate Zhang Yi. So, it was you yesterday. Thank you so much for your guidance." Seeing this, Zhou Hao beside him was immediately shocked. He exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my god, boss, you're so amazing. Not only the school bell, but now even the class bell is hugging you." While Zhang Yi was dazed, not knowing what to do, someone rushed out of a room and started questioning Zhang Yi. "What do you think you're doing? Let go of Xian." This person was Shun Jun, son of the chairman of Dongsheng Group, who was pursuing Xian like a persistent dog. His words made Xian embarrassed, and she let go of his arm. Shun Jun then started to aggressively criticize Zhang Yi. "You're harassing a female classmate at school. I will report you to the advisor." Xian heard this and angrily scolded. "Don't talk nonsense. I was just thanking Zhang Yi for yesterday." However, he still stubbornly argued. "Thanking him? Huh? Why would you need to hug him so tightly to thank him?" Xian became even more dissatisfied. She yelled fiercely, "What right do you have to control me? When did my business become your concern?" Shun Jun, being scolded back, was embarrassed, but he still couldn't shut his dog mouth. He trembled and asked, Xian, "Don't tell me you and him have." With a cold snort, Xian said nonchalantly, "What's between me and him is none of your business. Please stay away from me in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for not being polite." Jun was unconvinced. He asked doubtfully, "What exactly do you like about this guy?" Zhang Yi, watching the two argue, chuckled softly. He remembered this guy, a second-generation rich kid. In his previous life, this guy liked to be pretentious and show off. In his previous life, he didn't provoke him, and he didn't even bother to pay attention to him. However, this smile from Zhang Yi provoked Yunis' fury. He scolded fiercely, "Are you laughing at me? Do you think I'm very laughable right now?" Not only did he speak, but he also punched Zhang Yi's shoulder. At this, Zhou Hao couldn't stand it anymore and pushed Xinjun away. He scolded in dissatisfaction. "What are you doing? You dare to lay a hand on my boss?" This action by Zhou Hao startled Xinjun. Previously, he wouldn't dare to come near him, but now he dared to push him. And Zhang Yi, previously known for being a coward, now exuded an aura of anger and authority. Just then, Zhang Yi's hand was pulled by someone. Xian casually pulled him in front of everyone. "Zhang Yi, let's go." Ignore him. A moment later, the bell for class rang. The lecturer had also arrived. After placing his books on the desk, the lecturer stood before the class and announced, "Students, today I have some good news to share." The students below started to chatter, wondering what it was. They even speculated that someone had received an award. The lecturer didn't keep them waiting long and provided the answer. It is indeed related to Shun Jun, but this time it's not an award, but rather he has brought some benefits for the class. Shun Jun stepped up to the podium from below and arrogantly said, "Zhang Yi, your family situation. I know all about it. Your father is a disabled person." He said that 30,000 was a very large sum for Zhang Yi. He could offer him a spot first. Hearing these words, Zhou Hao whispered a curse. "Damn it, 30,000 a day. The lives of rich people are truly different. Boss, what do you think?" But Zhang Yi didn't say anything. The lecturer at the front then praised Xinjun, so considerate of his classmates. Regarding the situation in class, and even their families, he understands very well. Then he waved his hand, requesting Zhang Yi, "Why haven't you thanked Xinjun yet?" Zhang, you didn't even bother to stand up. He pouted and said, "Thank him for what? I don't really care about this small amount of money." As soon as these words were spoken, sounds of ridicule echoed in the classroom. Everyone thought his head had been hit by a rock. 30,000 is a small amount. Someone even said he was pretending to be noble. His family is clearly struggling to death. At the same time, Xian couldn't help but observe Zhang Yi more closely. To be honest, yesterday he easily defeated an ancient martial arts master, but his family background was known to the whole class. Could it be that he had some secret? Xin Yun, Skon Bu, Shang Yi, in front of the class, was furious. He angrily scolded him. Unfortunately, before he could finish, Zhang Yi's phone suddenly rang, interrupting him. He casually answered, "Old Xiao, what's up?" Guo Xiong on this and hurriedly said, "Master Zhang, there will be an auction in Yunluo tomorrow. At that time, many tycoons and prominent families from the city will be there. I wonder if Master Zhang is interested?" He pouted and replied, "An auction again? Huh? Not interested." Hearing his indifferent tone, Old Xiao became anxious. He urged, "Master Zhang, it's like this. This time it's not just antiques. I heard mystical artifacts will be auctioned this time." Zhang Yi frowned upon hearing this. Mystical artifacts? He wondered if these were the mystical artifacts he knew. After thinking for a while, he nodded and replied, "All right, I'll participate." Old Xiao on this and finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. He said happily, "Excellent." At that time, Master Zhang just mentioned my name. Then Zhang Yi hung up the phone. He glanced at Zhou Hao beside him and said, "Fatty, I'll take you to the auction tomorrow." Hearing these words, Shun Jun laughed disdainfully. "You going to an auction? I'm afraid you won't even be able to get through the gate." Shrugging indifferently, Zhang Yi pouted and replied, "Watch out, you might be the one who gets kicked out." These words made Shun Jun furious. Like a mad dog, he pointed at him and cursed, "Zhang Yi, all right, let's wait and see then." The following evening, at a large building in the city, on the top floor of this place, an auction was taking place. Many wealthy people were present. On one side of the banquet hall, a group of students had also gathered. They were discussing Zhang Yi, and then began to laugh at him. Xian stood to one side, seemingly pondering something. She didn't know if Zhang Yi could really come. Just then, she saw something unexpected, her eyes widening in surprise. She saw Shun Jun approaching in a formal suit, even wearing a bow tie. He raised an eyebrow, smiled, and asked, "That Zhang Yi guy hasn't arrived yet?" One of the classmates immediately replied, "Shun Jun, I know, young Master Shun. It looks like this Zhang Yi has been hiding since before. He wouldn't dare to come." Meanwhile, outside the building, Zhang Yi, who was approaching, suddenly sneezed. Twice. He rubbed his nose and said in dissatisfaction, "Someone's thinking of me again." Zhou Hao, walking beside him, hesitated and asked, "Boss, are you really going in?" Zhang Yi smiled casually and replied, "Of course. What's there to be afraid of?" The two guards at the door saw him and raised their hands to stop him. "Sir, hello. May I please see your invitation? If you don't have an invitation, you cannot enter." Zhang Yi looked up at them and chuckled. Sorry, I don't have an invitation. However, Xia Guoxiong invited us. However, one inconsiderate guard still waved his hand to dismiss them. Sir, sorry. No invitation, no entry. Please leave. Fortunately, another guard recognized the name Xia Guoxiong. He leaned into the other guard's ear and muttered, "Do you still want your job?" The manager said, "There's a guest of Xia Guoxiong who doesn't need an invitation." Hearing these words, the other guard immediately bowed respectfully. Zhang Yi, so you are old Master Xia's guest. Please come in. Zhang Yi ignored them and walked inside. Zhou Hao, walking behind, couldn't help but exclaim, "Boss, you have such a big reputation." Meanwhile, in the auction room above, Shen Jun walked over to Xian Xian and said with a smile, "Zhang Yi and his friend wouldn't dare to come. How about, before the auction starts, I take you for a walk around?" But just then, someone suddenly exclaimed, "Look over there. Isn't that Zhang Yi?" As soon as these words were spoken, Shen Jun turned his head to look. Sure enough, he saw Zhang Yi and the other person. Xian Xian happily waved at him. "Zhang Yi, we're over here." Zhang Yi walked up to them and said apologetically, "Sorry, I'm late." Zhou Hao beside him stuck out his tongue and teased Shen Jun. "Who was it that said we couldn't get past the main gate?" Shen Jun was naturally furious. He said resentfully, "You don't have an invitation. How did you get through?" Shrugging indifferently, Zhou Hao boasted smugly, "As long as the boss wants, there's nowhere he can't go." Hearing these words, Shen Jun's group immediately caught the main point. Shen Jun said angrily, "All right then, Zhang Yi, so it turns out you guys snuck in. Don't you know whose territory this is?" As soon as he finished speaking, he looked towards the security guard and called, "Come over here." Very quickly, two security guards walked over and asked, "Young Master Shun, what's the matter?" Shen Jun pointed at the two of them. Zhang Yi accused, "These two don't have invitations and snuck in here. Kick them out immediately." Hearing these words, a security guard approached and asked, "Sir, please show your invitation." Xian Xian, seeing this from the side, couldn't help but wonder, could it be that Zhang Yi really snuck in here? Thinking this, she hurriedly spoke up, "Shen Jun, we're all classmates. Don't take it too far." Shen Jun sneered and said, "Letting it go once is fine. But Zhang, he has to kneel down and apologize to me." Watching them act like a bunch of clowns, Zhang Yi couldn't help but sneer. He pouted and said, "Shen Jun, you're not worthy of me making a move. I advise you to just drop." These words angered Shen Jun even more. He immediately ordered, "Kick them out." The security guard immediately went to drag Zhang Yi out. "Sir, please come with me outside." However, no matter how hard he pulled, he didn't budge an inch. Shen Jun grew impatient waiting and became angry. He strode over aggressively and said, "Useless trash. Can't even handle this." Yet, even after he joined in, they couldn't do anything. They pulled until they were sweating profusely, but couldn't do a thing. Shen Jun glanced at the nearby security guards and said, "What are you looking at? Come over here and lend a hand." As soon as these words were spoken, a group of people rushed over to help, but Zhang Yi stood there like an unmovable statue. Shen Jun watched this scene, completely dumbfounded. How was this possible? The commotion on this side attracted someone over. Zhang Yi heard the footsteps and also turned his head to look. He saw Fenger delivering a flying kick, kicking a security guard straight, while angrily shouting, "How dare you touch Master Zhang?" After subduing the person, Fenger landed from midair. The group of people, seeing her execute such a powerful move right away, retreated in fear, not daring to advance. Shen Jun even asked doubtfully, "Who is that?" Fenger didn't answer. She looked at Zhang Yi and said, "Master Zhang, you didn't keep your word. Last time, you said you'd teach me a few moves, but you ended up disappearing for several days." Hearing these words, Zhang Yi couldn't help but chuckle. "My apologies, I had something urgent come up." Shen Jun finally recognized who Fenger was. Isn't that the granddaughter of the ancient martial arts master Xia Guoxiong, Xia Fengye? Thinking this, he hurriedly spoke, "Sister Xia, I don't know how my subordinates offended you. Did you really need to attack my subordinates like that?" Fenger glared at him and said coldly, "It was your people who disrespected Master Zhang." "Master Zhang?" Shen Jun exclaimed in disbelief, unable to comprehend. "You people won Master Zhang. Two Master Zhangs. Who exactly are you talking about?" But as soon as he finished speaking, he realized something. His eyes widened as he looked at Zhang Yi and exclaimed, "Could it be that Master Zhang is Zhang Yi? You only realize it now. Truly foolish." Xian Xian chuckled and replied, "That's right, I can prove it. I saw Zhang Yi use one move to defeat an enemy in a martial arts hall." Shen Jun looked like he had heard a joke. He threw his head back and laughed loudly. Ha! Zhang Yi, who's known for being a weak coward at school. You're now saying he's an ancient martial arts master? Saying that, he looked towards Feng'er and said, Sister Xia, Shan Jun, I have no intention of causing trouble with the Xia family, but Zhang Yi has violated our rules. He said that he didn't have an invitation and dared to sneak in. He requested her not to interfere in this matter. Feng'er looked at him contemptuously and pouted. Who do you think you are to dare kick out Master Zhang? He angrily tried to speak, Seth's sister, but he couldn't get a word out. Before he could finish, he was suddenly startled, because he heard a familiar voice. Shen Jun's father, Shen Tianming, arrived with manager's son. He was furious and scolded. You rotten kid, aren't you listening to me? When Shen Jun saw the other person, he exclaimed joyfully, Dad, you're here right on time. Unfortunately, Mr. Shen ignored him and walked straight into the crowd, hesitantly asking, Excuse me, which one is Grandmaster Zhang? Before anyone else could answer, Shen Jun pointed and accused, Dad, he's the one impersonating Grandmaster Zhang. He's Zhang Yi, my classmate. Hearing this name, Mr. Shen's gaze towards Zhang Yi became even more respectful. This young man defeated a great martial master with just one move. Truly a young grandmaster, he thought. He then turned and landed a heavy slap on Shen Jun's face. Tianming angrily scolded, You rotten kid, hurry up and apologize to Grandmaster Zhang. Shen Jun, clutching his stinging cheek, asked his father with a trembling voice, Why did you hit me? Tianming aggressively rebuked, You still have a nerve to ask? How dare you order someone to kick Grandmaster Zhang out? Shen Yun retorted defiantly. He snuck in here without an invitation. Why can't he be kicked out? Manager's son, beside them, reminded, Young master, I've already informed all the security staff here. Zhang Yi only needs to state his name. He can enter without an invitation. Hearing this, Shen Jun angrily shouted, What's wrong with everyone? Why is everyone, including Dad, suddenly respecting Zhang Yi so much? But seeing everyone's resolute expressions, he couldn't help but tremble. Could he really be what everyone is talking about? While Shen Jun was bewildered, Mr. Shen ordered, Hurry up and apologize. He hesitated for a long moment before saying in a low voice, Sorry, I was blind and failed to recognize a great person. Hearing this, Mr. Shen immediately cupped his hands towards Zhang Yi and said politely, Grandmaster Zhang, I hope you can overlook his blindness and forgive him. However, Zhang Yi shook his head and said with a smile, That won't do. I can't let someone disrespect me like this, unless Shen Jun gets out of here. Hearing this, Shen Jun's face immediately turned ugly, and he roared aggressively, Zhang Yi, don't bully people too much. But as soon as he finished speaking, his ear was pulled. Mr. Shen looked at his heaven-cursed son with annoyance and scolded, You scoundrel, haven't you shouted enough? If you're done, get out. Don't you feel ashamed? After speaking, he dragged Shen Jun out, leaving everyone constantly gossiping about Zhang Yi's identity. But Zhang Yi didn't care. He glanced at Feng Inai and asked, Where's your grandfather? Didn't you say he's coming today too? Feng Inai calmly replied, He'll be here a bit later. I heard a mysterious magical artifact will be brought to the auction. All the big shots in Yunluo have come. Xian beside them watched them talk, silently thinking to herself, This girl is from the He family of Yunluo City. Now, she can't compare to Zhang Yi's status. It's strange that she couldn't see. He had such power. At the same time, Zhang Yi was also thinking about the magical artifact that Feng and I had just mentioned. No wonder Oldie was so insistent that he participate. It seems this is a battle between forces. Alright, let's see what that magical artifact really is. Just then in the hall, someone's cheerful voice suddenly rang out. Distinguished guest. He reminded everyone that the auction was about to begin. Please come inside. Soon after, everyone began to enter. Zhou Hao walking beside Zhang Yi couldn't help but exclaim, Boss, you were so impressive this time. Let's see if Shen Jun dares to show off in front of you at school anymore. This auction could be considered the largest auction in Yunluo City ever. Every item here was of great value. However, after Zhang Yi took a look around, he wondered, what's so surprising about this ancient martial world auction? It's all just ordinary antiques. On the other hand, Zhou Hao was extremely excited, his eyes shining at every item. Boss, this auction has so many things. I'm not going with you anymore. I'm going to walk around. Nodding indifferently, Zhang Yi calmly said, Go ahead. If you see anything good, tell me. I'll buy it for you. Hearing this, Zhou Hao winked cheerfully. Boss, you said. Just then, Feng and I walked over to him and said, Grandmaster Zhang, look at that display case over there. Many people are gathered there. Could it be a treasure? Let's go take a look. The two quickly went over to see. They saw the auction guide, introducing a short sword to a young master. This person was Xiao Han, the young master of the Xiao family. Looking at the sword in the display case, he smiled and asked, I wonder if I could take it out to try. The guide answered without hesitation, of course you can. Then, he carefully put on gloves and slowly took out the short sword for Xiao Han to examine. At the same time, everyone else also started discussing. After observing for a while, Xiao Han said in a deep voice, this short sword looks sharp in its design, but is it really as sharp as everyone says? I wonder if you could let us broaden our horizons. Of course, the guide nodded casually. Immediately after, two people brought out an iron block and placed it in front. He calmly said, this is an iron block we prepared earlier. After the demonstration, everyone can inspect the iron block. Please watch carefully. As soon as he finished speaking, the guide swung his hand and slashed down. He struck a corner of the stone block. With just one strike, a corner of the iron block was cut off. The surrounding crowd saw this scene and began to exclaim in admiration. Amazing! It's really sharp. There wasn't even a sound. Someone ran over to inspect the freshly cut piece of iron and exclaimed in disbelief. This really is an ordinary piece of iron. Only then did Xiao Han speak up. Very well, I'll buy this short sword. The guide immediately shouted, all right, the starting price is 20 million. Young Master Xiao has made the first bid. Does anyone else want to bid? This figure of 20 million was too expensive for most people, but some considered it a treasure, priceless for both collection and use. However, since it was Xiao Han who would dare to compete, if you offended the Xiao family, you certainly wouldn't have peace in the future. Therefore, no one dared to bid. At this time, the guide continued to shout, 20 million, going once. Does anyone else want to bid? If not, then... Just then, someone raised their hand, interrupting, please wait a moment. The person who raised their hand was Zhang Yi. He calmly stated a number. I bid 30 million. All eyes immediately turned towards him. People started to whisper, wondering who he was, and why he dared to compete with Xiao Han for an item. At this moment, Xiao Han looked towards Feng and I and said, you came too. She put her arm on Zhang Yi's shoulder, pouted playfully, and replied, why? Am I not allowed to come? Xiao Han's expression immediately turned ugly. He asked doubtfully, who is that brat? Feng and I immediately boasted. This is the one who defeated an ancient martial arts master in one move at the Honggu Martial Arts Hall. Grandmaster Zhang. Hearing this, Xiao Han couldn't help but be stunned. Is it really him? The young ancient martial arts master in Yunluo. Zhang, listening to their conversation beside them, was a bit speechless. It seems the fight at Honggu Hall had made a name for him, but in the future, if he wanted to succeed, he couldn't be too famous now. Just then, someone exclaimed in disbelief, what youngest grandmaster? I think it's just a rumor. He said the true youngest grandmaster in Yunluo is Xiao Han. Xiao Han greatly enjoyed these flattering words, but didn't show it on his face. He looked at Zhang Yi and asked, so now, Grandmaster Zhang, you want to compete for this short sword? With me, right? Smiling faintly, Zhang Yi calmly replied, not really. I just think this short sword is very good, and I happen to need a weapon. Xiao Han pretended to think for a moment, then said with difficulty, I also like this short sword. Grandmaster Zhang, it seems the only way is to bid for it. Then he bid 50 million. This number, once announced, astonished the entire audience. No one expected Xiao Han to bid so high. Zhang, he didn't pay much attention, let out a breath, and then shouted, 60 million. These words shocked everyone even more. This person dared to oppose young Master Xiao, that's one thing, but he also has so much money. Feng and I on this side wasn't very surprised, but she hesitated and asked, Grandmaster Zhang, is 60 million too much to buy a short sword? Zhang Yi smiled calmly and replied, money is an external possession. If it runs out, I can earn more. Meanwhile, Xiao Han on this side was purple with anger. He almost roared out the bid of 80 million. The person walking beside him heard it and spoke up, advising young Master Xiao, 80 million. I'm afraid you'll have to discuss this with President Xiao. Otherwise, President Xiao will. However, before he could finish, he received a deathly glare from Xia Heng. Feng and I, on this side, also whispered to Zhang, Grandmaster Zhang, 80 million. Perhaps you should let go of this short sword. At the same time, Xiao Han was telling himself that today he definitely couldn't let him win. Just then, a short sword suddenly fell to the ground. The clanging sound attracted Zhang Yi's attention. He saw a man embarrassedly apologizing. "So sorry, I accidentally dropped the short sword." The moment Zhang Yi saw the sword, he ran over and asked, "Can I see that short sword?" When everyone saw him suddenly abandon the auction midway and run over there, they also looked over. Then they started discussing the short sword in his hand. Even Feng Ni asked doubtfully, "Grandmaster Zhang, what's wrong? Don't you want that sword anymore?" Zhang Yi shook his head slightly and calmly replied, "I found another, better short sword." Feng and I looked at him in surprise and asked, puzzled, "Is it the one in your hand? It looks so old and worn out." Just then, another guide approached and asked, "Sir, you want this one? It looks old, but it has great collection value." Zhang Yi didn't answer immediately. He placed his hand on it and channeled spiritual energy into the sword. Very quickly, he discovered strange patterns on the sword's body. Zhang Yi finally understood. So, it's sealed by a formation. This was the first time he'd seen one since returning to this world. Immediately after, he looked at the guide and said, "I'll take this short sword." Hearing that Zhang Yi wanted it, Feng and I immediately ran over to look at the price on the display case and exclaimed in disbelief, "What? This sword is also worth several million." Then she glanced at Zhang Yi and asked, "Grandmaster Zhang, do you want to reconsider?" Swipe the card. Zhang Yi took out his card without hesitation and handed it to the guide. He didn't hesitate to hand over the machine for him to swipe the card. The transaction was completed very quickly. He just needed to wait until he returned, and he would break the magic seal to see what spiritual energy was inside. Zhang Yi obtained the sword he wanted. Feng and I and Xian beside him immediately congratulated him, making Xiao Han, on the other side, purple with anger. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out, startling him. The guide was holding the short sword and presented it to him. He smiled cheerfully and said, "Young Master Xiao, congratulations. You finally successfully bid for this sword for 80 million. Hearing this number, Xiao Han's face turned pale. Then he angrily looked at Zhang. "It's all your fault. You must have deliberately raised the price high and then backed out." He would definitely hold a grudge for this. But everything was settled. Xiao Han could only unhappily swipe his card. If his father found out about this 80 million, he'd be done for, right? Then another person suddenly shouted, "Look, another big shot has arrived." Hearing the sound, everyone looked towards the door and saw a group of people approaching. They were the heads of martial arts halls in Yinluo. In addition, the person in the middle was Xiao Zhongtian, the only grandmaster in Yinluo. When Feng and I saw old he, she hurriedly ran over. "You're finally here." Xian also went up to Honggu to greet her. Xiao Han ran to his grandfather. "Xiao," bowing respectfully. "Grandfather." At this moment, Honggu realized Zhang Yi was also there. She hurriedly went over, cupped her fists, and greeted, "Grandmaster Zhang, you're here too." Nodding indifferently, Zhang Yi calmly said, "Sister Honggu, no need to be so polite. Just call me Zhang Yi from now on." Hearing this, Suri, beside them, immediately broke out in a cold sweat. So this was the rumored Grandmaster Zhang. Luckily, he ran fast that day. At the same time, Zhongtian also walked up to Zhang Yi and asked, "Is this Grandmaster Zhang?" Zhang Yi glanced at him, observing, "This person is probably Xiao Zhongtian of a Xiao family, a renowned grandmaster in Yinluo. The aura he emits is stronger than old he and the others, but it seems he's only a half-step grandmaster." Seeing he didn't answer, Xiao Han became furious. "What are you looking at? My grandfather is asking you a question." Before Zhang Yi could say anything, Oldie became dissatisfied and scolded, "That Xiao family brat. Don't be disrespectful to Grandmaster Zhang." Ignoring their commotion, Zhongtian was still silently observing Zhang Yi. Judging by his aura, he doesn't even seem like a master, let alone the Grandmaster old he mentioned. Could he be hiding his strength? With someone backing him up, Xiao Han was extremely arrogant and loudly retorted to old he, "My grandfather's status is a level above yours. If he wants you to sit, you can't stand. In terms of strength, you're far inferior to my grandfather. So, y'all should be a bit more polite." When Feng and I heard this, she became even more dissatisfied and angrily scolded Xiao Han. "Shut up. Your grandfather is no match for mine." With a cold laugh, if you want to know who wins and who loses, ask your grandfather. Let's see the show. Enough. The old man of the Xiao family then pretended to gravely advise, "Shower, whatever you say, old he, here is still a senior. You mustn't be disrespectful." Xiao Han smiled and replied, "Yes, grandfather," showing no respect at all. Just then, another voice suddenly rang out. "Greetings to all the grandmasters here." Everyone looked toward the sound and saw Mr. Shun pushing someone forward. This person was Su Fu, a great master antique collector. People started whispering about the two of them. Su Fu paid no attention. He pressed the control button in his hand, and in an instant, an item appeared before them. He slowly introduced, "This is a Bagua mirror that I accidentally found. It has a hidden power within. Anyone within half a meter will be attacked." Su Fu had invited many experts to examine it, but there was no information. "I wonder if any of you would like to try it?" Everyone fell silent in an instant, but very quickly, someone stepped forward. This Ma Jinren confidently said, "Let me. I don't believe in these kinds of magical artifacts." As soon as he finished speaking, he placed his hand on the Bagua mirror. Seeing this, Su Fu hurriedly warned, "You should reconsider. It could be dangerous. Be careful." However, Ma Jinren didn't seem to care much, and still placed his hand on the Bagua mirror. Immediately, a stream of energy erupted from within. Not only that stream of energy turned into a lightning bolt and struck down. Ma Jinren, seeing this, couldn't help but panic. In an instant, it enveloped his entire body. A blood-curdling scream echoed throughout the auction room. Ma Jinren was also struck by lightning until he was char-black. Everyone who saw it couldn't help but whisper in disgust. "That's truly terrifying power. Good thing I didn't go up there." Meanwhile, Zhang Yi outside observed silently. He had recognized that there was a formation, but he didn't expect it to be so domineering. It's just that this Bagua mirror doesn't seem able to sustain the power of this formation for long. At this time, Su Fu awkwardly scratched his head and said, "I've invited many experts to break the seal, but so far, there have been no results. Therefore, today I invite everyone here. Whoever can break the seal, it will belong to that person." Hearing this, everyone became even more agitated. "He's too generous." Some even believed that with the Bagua mirror in hand, one would become a top figure. This sound reached Xiao Han's ears. He couldn't help but purse his lips in disdain. "Come on, look at that Taoist priest who just went up. He at least had early-stage Huajin strength and almost lost his life. If you're only in the early stage of Huajin, don't come up here and make a fool of yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Han released his own aura. Seeing this, He Guoxiong couldn't help but be astonished. This aura is already late-stage Huajin. Indeed, he lives up to his name as the most talented of the city's younger generation. Feng and I is still far behind him. Xiao Han, recklessly, walked up to the Bagua mirror, snorted coldly, and said, "Let me subdue you." Immediately after, he channeled spiritual energy into it. However, once again, a lightning bolt from within the mirror shot out, causing him to panic. While Xiao Han was bewildered, the lightning struck harder and harder. His eyes widened in terror, his body unable to move. In this critical moment, Zhong Tian, swift as the wind, flashed past him. He struck out with a palm, instantly dissipating the lightning bolt. Zhang Yi outside observed silently. He had realized the mystery within the mirror. It utilized the power of heaven, earth, and the Bagua to form a small gathering formation. After Xiao Han was rescued, he still arrogantly declared, "Even a small magical artifact knows how to launch a sneak attack." He wanted to advance, but Zhong Tian stopped him. "Shower, let go. We have more important matters." Su Fu became even more disappointed and sighed. "I can't believe even the Xiao family couldn't solve this Bagua mirror. I'm afraid I won't see the Bagua mirror unsealed in this lifetime." At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out, "Let me try." Everyone immediately turned in surprise. They found that the speaker was Zhang Yi. Feng and I looked at him in surprise, wanting to advise him, but old He, beside her, shook his head to stop her. "Feng and I, rest assured, Grandmaster Zhang will be fine." Zhang Yi ignored everyone's gazes and walked forward. "Even my grandfather is wary of the Bagua mirror's power. You think you can handle it? Just wait for the ghost to collect your corpse." Hearing this, Zhang Yi sneered and said, "I am the king of mortals. How can this mere formation trouble me?" As soon as he finished speaking, a ray of spiritual energy shot from his hand. In an instant, it merged with the Bagua mirror. A powerful force immediately struck the air, causing Zhong Tian's eyes to widen in shock. The He family's grandfather and granddaughter were no exception. Their eyes filled with astonishment. Under everyone's incredulous gaze, The Bagua mirror quickly fell to the ground. Zhang Yi walked over and picked it up. He said in a deep voice, "Indeed, it's just as I expected. The center of the yin-yang poles is the eye of the formation." Seeing this, Su Fu immediately trembled, stood up abruptly, and exclaimed in panic, "The restriction has been broken." Xiao Han on this side was so angry he gritted his teeth and muttered, "How is this possible? How could he so easily break the Bagua mirror's restriction?" Zhong Tian's expression also turned. "Very ugly. This person is unfathomably deep. If I can't use him for myself, I definitely can't let him stay in Yunluo City. Truly, talent incites jealousy." Zhang Yi paid no attention to the others, thoughtfully observing the mirror in his hand. "I wonder who created it. Although the power inside is good, the external structure isn't very strong. I'm afraid it will break after a few uses." While he was thinking, Xu Fu approached, hesitated, and asked, "Sir, could you lend it to me? Ever since I owned it, I've never been able to touch it." "Of course you can." Zhang Yi didn't hesitate to hand it to him. Su Fu, overjoyed to tears, hugged the mirror and exclaimed, "Thank you so much. I never thought I'd be able to touch it like this before I die." Zhang Yi, seeing his reaction, was a bit speechless. Why is this old man so emotional? In my previous life, I could create 10 of these artifacts in just a minute. After a while, Su Fu was satisfied. He returned the mirror to Zhang Yi and said, "Because you broke the barrier of this Bagua mirror, it now belongs to you. Although I'm a bit reluctant. I, Su Fu, am a man of my word." Nodding indifferently, Zhang Yi calmly accepted it. "Then I won't be polite. Honestly, this mirror was much worse than the sword he had just bought. But since he didn't have a weapon to use now, he'd keep it for the time being." Just then, Zhou Hao, who had just returned from his walk, ran over to congratulate him. "Boss, congratulations on obtaining such a powerful magical artifact. I've been here watching the whole time." Chuckled softly, Zhang Yi calmly replied, "It was just luck." Oldie felt there was nothing else to do. He said urgently, "The auction is over. Let's go home." However, after taking just 2 steps, Xiao Han called them back. "Wait, there's an important matter to announce to everyone today." Zhang Yi's group immediately stopped. Oldie seemed to have guessed something, and his expression turned a bit ugly. He glanced at him and asked in a deep voice, "What important matter?" Xiao Han swept his gaze over everyone and declared aggressively, "Today, all the families and martial arts halls in Yunluo have gathered and will form an alliance with my grandfather, Xiao Zhongtian, as the alliance leader." As soon as these words were out, everyone was immediately shocked. Whispers and discussions quickly spread around. A moment later, someone shouted in opposition, "I disagree." The speaker was Honggu. She said coldly, "Old Xiao, I agree that your strength surpasses ours, but each martial hall has its own characteristics and rights. We don't want to be managed by any alliance." He Guoxiong also added in a deep voice, "Xiao Zhongtian." Previously, Dongfang Wuxin also said he wanted to form an alliance to consolidate and develop Yunluo. As a result, he colluded with other forces to sabotage Yunluo. Zhongtian narrowed his eyes at him and calmly opened his mouth. "He Guoxiong, do you know the force behind that?" Pausing for a moment, he continued aggressively, "The Nine Nether, an ancient assassin organization. If Yunluo doesn't form an alliance now, I'm afraid the Nine Nether will find other ways to deal with us later. That would be a great disaster." These words plunged the entire assembly into shock. The older generation had heard of it, but the younger generation had never heard of it. Someone boldly voiced their objection. "I think Xiao Zhongtian probably made it up to become the alliance leader." At the same time, Zhang Yi was silently observing the Xiao family's grandfather and grandson. He also knows about the Nine Nether. This is very suspicious. He asked in a low voice, "Did you tell him?" Old He Guoxiong, shook his head in denial. "No, I haven't told anyone about the Nine Nether." Just then, Xiao Han arrogantly shouted, "I've said my piece. Who agrees? Who objects?" "I object." Someone immediately raised their hand in opposition. It was Wu Cheng, head of the small martial arts hall. He snorted coldly and said, "Whatever the reason, my small martial arts hall does not agree to form any such alliance." But as soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Han slapped him. He sneered and said, "Since when do small factions like yours get to speak?" Seeing this, Honggu became furious and scolded Xiao Han. "You've gone too far. How dare you hit someone?" Old He, seeing the situation was not good, asked in a low voice, "What do you think?" Xiao Zhongtian's words are not without reason. "Perhaps the Nine Nether won't easily let us form an alliance. Of course it's a good thing Zhong Tian was also looking at old He and the other. In his heart, he knew well that the only ones who could threaten him were these two. That's all. Zhang Yi thought for a long time before speaking. But why should Xiao Zhongtian be the alliance leader? Hearing this, Xiao Han immediately laughed loudly. Why? He pointed to old Xiao and boasted. Because my grandfather is the only grandmaster in Yunluo. That's why. What else? Phineas Norte Disdanfeli. Nonsense. Mr. Zhang is also a grandmaster, and he's even stronger than your grandfather. Xiao Han pursed his lips and said with a calm smile, with just talk like that, anyone could be a grandmaster. A grandmaster in name, but not in reality. He said everyone in Yunluo knew his grandfather's status. As for this Zhang Yi, how many people even know him? As soon as these words were out, the surrounding crowd also immediately started discussing. That's right. Although that earlier display was amazing, a true grandmaster's power is immense. It can be said to be the highest status in the country. Feng and I, unconvinced, stood in front, aggressively scolding. A grandmaster in name, but not in reality. I am afraid if Grandmaster Zhang makes a move, your grandfather wouldn't be able to withstand even one strike. Zhang Yi glanced at her, understanding her intentions clearly. This little girl was deliberately trying to provoke him. Feng and I clearly had a plan. Zhang Yi's strength was truly unpredictable, finding a grandmaster just at the right time. She wanted to see just how strong he really was. At this time, Xiao Han spoke up. So, does this brat dare to fight my grandfather? But first, he has to get past me. I wonder if Grandmaster Zhang dares. Zhang Yi chuckled softly, waved his hand, and said, "You're too weak. You're not worthy of being my opponent." These words enraged Xiao Han. He gritted his teeth and cursed. This ignorant brat, stop being impudent. As soon as he finished speaking, he lunged forward to attack. Feng and I couldn't help but be startled. Xiao Han's speed was too fast. She couldn't keep up. However, Zhang Yi was no ordinary person. He casually caught his fist. He raised an eyebrow slightly, pursed his lips disdainfully. Too slow. I told you, you're not worthy of being my opponent. This scene immediately shocked the surrounding crowd. No one could have imagined Zhang Yi could block it. The crowd's murmurs reached Xiao Han's ears, making him extremely angry. He was naturally unconvinced. He clenched his fist. Xiao Han gathered spiritual energy into his fist and shouted loudly, wanting to attack Zhang Yi. Unfortunately, he didn't fight back at all, just casually dodging. Zhong Tian, observing this scene from the outside, couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, his grandson was no match for Zhang Yi. By now, Xiao Han was exhausted and out of breath. Zhang Yi stood leisurely to one side, raised an eyebrow, smiled, and said, "Useless. Why don't you send your grandfather out here?" Xiao Han, furious, roared, "You dare to insult me." As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a medicinal pill. He swallowed it without hesitation. Seeing this, old Xiao Zhongtian silently nodded. As expected, he's going to use the life-boosting pill. Although the pill could increase strength and cultivation immediately, it was extremely harmful to the body, but made sense. Xiao Han had never lost to anyone before. His anger was understandable. The moment the pill was swallowed, Xiao Han's entire body was enveloped by a surge of power. Zhang Yi chuckled and said, "I didn't expect this world to also have such interesting strength-enhancing pills. Let me play with you." Xiao Han glared at him and said angrily, "Brat, you've angered me. Today, I'll make you die here." In an instant, his figure vanished without a trace. When he reappeared, he was in front of Zhang Yi. Xiao Han frantically threw punches at him. Seeing this, Zhou Hao immediately panicked and shouted, "We're doomed. Boss isn't fighting back." Feng Er heard this and spoke up to reassure. "Don't worry, you're underestimating Master Zhang." In the midst of the fight, Xiao Han laukit triumphantly. Immediately after, he unleashed the Seven Wounds fist. Clearly, he wanted to kill him on the spot. However, Zhang Yi remained calm, standing there. He casually raised his fist to block one of Xiao Han's punches. Seeing this, Zhong Tian, who was outside, frowned. This brat unexpectedly dares to take the Xiao family's Seven Wounds fist with his bare hands. I'm afraid that arm will be crippled. But he was overthinking it. The one whose arm was crippled was actually Xiao Han. He was sent flying far away by Zhang Yi. The old man of the Xiao family's expression immediately turned ugly. Feeling that something was wrong, he rushed out to catch Xiao Han's body. Looking at his weakened grandson in his arms, Zhong Tian's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. All the bones in his arm were shattered. But the punch just now hadn't injured Zhang Yi at all. At this moment, Zhang Yi spoke calmly. I didn't do anything. His injuries are all self-inflicted. I call that reaping what you sow. These words made Zhang Tian even angrier. He roared furiously. You dare cripple Xiao Heir's arm? Today, I'll take your dog life. As soon as he finished speaking, his aura erupted. A phantom image of a giant tiger appeared in the air. Seeing the scene, old Xia's face turned ugly, and he exclaimed in disbelief. Internal energy materialization. Such terrifying control over internal chi. This is the skill of a grandmaster. At the same time, Zhang Tian dashed forward. His hands had also transformed into a set of claws. He frantically attacked Zhang Yi. Everyone, due to the power Zhang Tian unleashed, retreated. Guo Zhong's eyes widened in horror. This is the true strength of a grandmaster, the goal he was striving for. In the midst of the fight, Zhang Tian had moved behind Zhang Yi. He said coldly, Young man, your speed seems a bit slow. As soon as he finished speaking, he struck Zhang Yi's back with a palm. Zhang Yi's body flew backward, just like that, smashing hard into a pillar, shattering. Dust and debris flew everywhere. Seeing this, Feng Er cried out in alarm. Oh no, Master Zhang was hit. The old man of the Xiao family laughed triumphantly. Is this the rumored young grandmaster? Feng Er glanced at Guoxiong and asked worriedly, Grandpa, what should we do? Old Xia calmly said, Wait a moment. Master Zhang won't be defeated so easily. Sure enough, right after that, a hand emerged from the rubble. Along with it came Zhang Yi's voice. It seems I underestimated my opponent. This made Zhang Tian's eyes widen in astonishment. Zhang Yi stood up and wiped the blood from his mouth. He continued to chuckle and said, Since returning to this world, this is the first time I've been hit hard enough to cough up blood like this. Seeing him, Zhu Hao exclaimed joyfully, Look, it's Boss. Boss is fine. Zhang Tian snorted coldly and said, Not bad, young man, but today I will take your life. As soon as he finished speaking, he, along with his giant tiger phantom, rushed toward Zhang Yi. With a loud bang, a huge commotion erupted from inside the house, startling everyone. Inside, it was a breathtaking sight. Behind Zhang, a phantom image of a fire phoenix appeared. Zhang Tian was terrified, his eyes wide with disbelief, muttering, It seems the rumors were true. This kid really has stepped into the Grandmaster realm. Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow, looking at him, his face showing a confident smile. The people around were equally astounded. They never expected to have the chance to see two Grandmasters fight today. This remark angered Zhang Tian. He was determined to eliminate Zhang Yi. He would become a stumbling block in his path. Zhang Yi, on the opposite side, didn't yield an inch. The two clashed again in an instant. Their two materialized phantoms also confronted each other. A fist and a palm quickly collided. Two powerful energies instantly spread through the air. Anyone within a few meters around the two would surely be blown away. However, Zhang Yi was a cut above. His spiritual power, before long, shattered Zhang Tian's layer of spiritual power. Because of this, he was knocked back several meters. His expression was now as ugly as if he had stepped in dung. His eyes were filled with disbelief. His strength was actually a level above his. At this moment, Zhang Yi chuckled and said, It seems you've only just stepped 1 foot into the Grandmaster realm, haven't you? Let me show you what the true skills of a Grandmaster are like. As soon as he finished speaking, another strand of spiritual power appeared in his hand. The fire phoenix instantly shot forward. This scene terrified the old man of the Xiao family. He gritted his teeth and muttered. Internal energy materialization projected outwards to kill enemies. I can't be careless. He quickly summoned the giant tiger phantom to defend. Unfortunately, the fire phoenix, under Zhang Yi's command, was like a heavy statue pressing down on him. He couldn't move at all. This scene was too stunning, causing the onlookers to stare in a daze. The old man of the Xiao family was thus suppressed by Zhang Yi. His spiritual power weakened. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Xiao Han, who had just regained consciousness after a doctor bandaged his wounds, saw this and cried out in fear. Grandpa. Feng Er, on the other hand, was extremely happy. Grandpa, Master Zhang won. Old Xia nodded slightly. Indeed, choosing to side with Zhang Yi from the beginning was a wise decision. At this moment, Zhang Yi walked up to Zhang Tian and said with a smile, It seems the Xiao family no longer needs to stay in Yunluo. Hearing these words, Xiao Han's sword-like eyebrows immediately furrowed. He went to support his grandfather and then said arrogantly, Zhang Yi, don't you dare be arrogant. The Xiao family, we are not afraid of you. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he was humbled. Zhong Tian angrily scolded, shut up. Don't be disrespectful to Master Zhang. Immediately after, he wisely cupped his fists and bowed. Master Zhang, just now we were blind and failed to recognize your greatness and offended you. If you spare our Xiao family, I, Xiao Zhongtian, am willing to support you as the alliance leader. Zhang, he was too terrifying. So young and already at the early stage of a grandmaster. His background must not be simple. If the Xiao family continued to fight him, they feared it would bring the disaster of clan extermination. Therefore, he decided to submit first. However, hearing these words, Zhang Yi snorted coldly with disdain. Do I need the support of a defeated subordinate? At this moment, Old Xia and Hong Chong came forward to submit to Zhang Yi. He just chuckled lightly. Then he glanced at everyone and said, if anyone has any objections or wants to challenge me, step forward. As soon as these words were spoken, the people below were immediately shocked. No one thought someone as young as him would become the alliance leader. But Zhang Yi's strength was something everyone had witnessed. Everyone immediately shouted in unison. We all agree to Master Zhang becoming the alliance leader. Zhang Yi nodded in satisfaction and said calmly, very good. This way, we won't be afraid of Jiao Yu causing trouble. Then he announced to everyone that he was still too young. So he decided to let Old Xia be the acting alliance leader. The alliance. Any matters, big or small, he would take charge on behalf of Zhang Yi. No one dared to object and immediately comply. This made Zhong Tian dumbfounded with fear. He never expected that he, who seemed so quiet, would have such influence in Yunluo. Thinking this, he immediately went before him, cupped his fists, and said, congratulations, alliance leader, on this joyous occasion. I hope Master Zhang can forgive our Xiao family. In the future, the Xiao family will definitely obey your commands. Zhang Yi glanced at him, pursed his lips, and said, do you need me to repeat what I said? Zhong Tan hurriedly waved his hand in denial. No, alliance leader Zhang. I didn't mean that. He knew very well. If he didn't sacrifice something, the Xiao family couldn't escape this trouble. Thinking this, the old man of the Xiao family immediately spoke up. If you spare the Xiao family today, I am willing to tell the alliance leader about the cultivation secret that allowed me to break through to the Grandmaster realm. Hearing these words, Xiao Han immediately cried out in alarm. Grandpa, don't say it. That's the secret that allows our Xiao family to have a foothold in Yunluo. Seeing his reaction, Zhang Yi couldn't help but feel interested. He raised an eyebrow and said, let's hear it. Zhong Tian hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. It's an immortal's cave. There's a large amount of spiritual qi there, very suitable for cultivation. Seeing Zhang Yi hesitate slightly, Zhong Tian immediately ordered his subordinate, prepare the helicopter. Although he had been humbled, Xiao Han still didn't know his place. He still interjected, Grandpa, don't tell me you want, only to be scolded by him. Shut up, I've already decided. Seeing the grandfather and grandson arguing, Old Xia felt something was amiss. He whispered a reminder to Zhang Yi, I'm afraid it's a trap. This Xiao Zhongtian is not trustworthy. But Zhang Yi didn't reply. At this moment, Zhong Tian came over and said, Master Zhang, I've had someone prepare the helicopter. As long as you let my Xiao family go, we will depart right now. Zhang Yi said with a cold smile, that depends on whether your immortal's cave can satisfy me. Of course, Zhong Tian nodded leisurely, but in his heart, he was apprehensive. A moment later, the Xiao family's helicopter had flown to a small mountain far from the city. This time, not only Zhang Yi went, but Old Xia, his granddaughter Feng Er, and Guixiong also went along. After flying for an hour, they stopped. Everyone stepped onto a clearing on the mountain. Zhong Tian said as he walked, the helicopter can only go this far. I don't know why, but the magnetic field in this area is chaotic. He said, luckily, I had people prepare a yacht. As long as we cross this body of water, we will reach the immortal's cave. Zhang Yi slowly stepped onto the boat. He thought, it seems Xiao Zhongtian isn't lying. Their boat glided across the water surface. The spiritual qi here was indeed very abundant. Zhang Yi could feel it. The boat went faster and faster. Before long, it had ventured deep into the mountainous region. But Guixiong noticed a problem. He frowned and muttered, why is the fog getting thicker? Zhong Tian was startled for a moment, then hurriedly explained, it's just a natural phenomenon. This place is very humid. The temperature drops, but after traveling a bit further, a malicious intent appeared on his face. Everyone was caught off guard. And so, this old devil, Xiao, jumped into the water. Feng Er saw it and exclaimed in shock, "Oh no!" Xiao Zhongtian jumped into the water. Old Xiao also stood up, displeased. He was about to jump down to catch him, but was stopped by Zhang. Wait. This is a fog formation. If you're not familiar with these waters and jump in, it will be very dangerous. After hearing this, old Xia frowned and asked, "Then what about Xiao Zhongtian?" He shook his head and replied, "Don't worry, he can't escape." Meanwhile, under the water, Zhong Tian was trying to swim to shore. He was extremely pleased with himself. This place, rich in spiritual qi, had long been coveted by people. But to this day, no one had been able to break the fog formation. These waters, only someone familiar with them, could smoothly navigate by following the large rocks deep underwater to find a way out of the fog formation. Zhang Yi wants to destroy the Xiao family. I'll let him die here. Half an hour later, Zhang Yi's group's boat was still drifting with the current. Feng Er said worriedly, "We're doomed. It seems we're trapped in these waters. There's no way out anymore." Old Xiao was also not at ease. He looked at Zhang Yi and asked, "We've been moving forward for half an hour, but it seems we're still in the same place." Zhang Yi smiled calmly and said, "I've figured out the pattern of the formation. Now I know how to break it. How could this fog formation possibly trouble me? Breaking this formation is very simple. Just need to break the formation's eye." As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped onto the boat's railing, then leaped into the air. He gathered a stream of spiritual power in his hand. Zhang Yi struck it into a swirling green mass of qi that was spinning. This was the eye of the formation. In just an instant, Zhang Yi's spiritual power caused the formation's eye to spin ceaselessly. With a loud bang, the water surface suddenly exploded. When the mist cleared, visibility on the water returned. Old Xia said happily, "Great, the fog is gradually clearing." At this moment, Feng Er seemed to have discovered something. She immediately cried out, "Everyone look, there's an island over there." Zhang Yi and Old Xia looked over. Sure enough, they saw an island in the distance. Immediately after, the three of them, Zhang Yi, Old Xia, Feng Er, steered the boat towards the island. Feng Er cheerfully jumped off the boat. She exclaimed happily, "Master Zhang, Xiao Zhongtian really didn't lie to us. The spiritual qi here is so abundant." Zhang Yi also got off, thinking to himself, "It seems this spiritual qi is emanating from the ground." The three of them went deeper into the island and discovered someone was there. Old Xia immediately roared furiously, "That bastard Xiao Zhongtian, you're not dead yet, you despicable rat, daring to harm us. Surrender your life." As soon as he finished speaking, he struck out with a palm. However, Zhongtian didn't just sit there waiting to die. He also retaliated with a palm strike. The two palm winds instantly collided. Old Xiao's cultivation was a level lower, so he was sent flying by him. Zhongtian quickly turned and fled. Feng Er ran worriedly to support Old Xia. "Grandpa, are you okay?" At this moment, the old devil of the Xiao family sneered contemptuously. "With just your strength, you think you can catch a grandmaster like me." However, as soon as he finished speaking, red threads suddenly appeared in front of him. In an instant, they wrapped him tightly like a cocoon. Zhang Yi slowly approached and asked with a cold snort, "Do you still want to run now?" He had clearly given him a way out, but he did cherish it. Only now did Zhong Tian feel fear enveloping him. Trembling, he begged, "Master Zhang, no, that's not right. Grandmaster Zhang, please spare me just this once. I was just momentarily confused then." After hearing this, Zhang Yi said contemptuously, "You tried to kill me, and now you're begging for your life?" As soon as he finished speaking, he struck. In just a moment, agonizing screams echoed through the forest. By the time Zhang Yi withdrew his hand, Zhong Tian had become a corpse. Seeing him act so decisively, Old Xia couldn't help but sigh with emotion. "Luckily, I chose the right side and didn't treat him as an enemy. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know how I died." At this moment, Feng Er suddenly knelt on the ground. Her tone full of reverence, she said, "Master Zhang, I hope you will accept me, Feng Er, as your disciple." She swore that as long as Zhang Yi had any request, she would follow it. However, he shook his head and replied, "You are not worthy to be my disciple." Old Xia, seeing he refused, hurriedly interceded. Although Feng Er doesn't have any special talent, she can endure hardship. As long as Master Zhang teaches and guides her, she definitely won't disappoint you. Unfortunately, Zhang, He still firmly replied, I won't repeat what I've said. Hearing this, Feng Er sighed in disappointment. Grandpa, it's all my fault for not having any talent. But Zhang Yi suddenly spoke up. However, I did agree to guide you. As for whether you can meet my requirements, that will depend on Feng Er's luck. Feng Er's emotions, in an instant, went from hell to heaven. She said joyfully, Feng Er will definitely not disappoint you. Zhang Yi didn't say much. In his hand, he formed a hand seal. He quickly transmitted it into her head, slowly explaining, Now, I will transmit to you the 9 turns blood-tempering art. Comprehend it yourself. In just an instant, a strange symbol appeared on Feng Er's forehead. In her mind, it was as if words were flashing by move. Although this wasn't considered top tier in the comprehensive world, but in this world where spiritual qi wasn't abundant enough, it would definitely be an ultimate technique. The Xia family's grandfather and granddaughter dared not delay. They immediately bowed to Zhang. Thank you, Master Zhang. Zhang, he waved his hand dismissively. All right, this place has just enough spiritual qi. Each of us should cultivate on our own. He said he wanted to go into seclusion for a few days. The two of them shouldn't disturb him. They didn't dare ask much and directly agreed. A moment later, Zhang Yi casually found a spot to cultivate. He was now surrounded by spiritual qi. It turned out this place gathered a large amount of spiritual qi because underground there was an accumulation of a large amount of spirit stones. Such a large reserve of spirit stones was rare even in Zhang Yi's comprehensive world, although they weren't the best quality. Fortunately, there's also this aura of primordial purple qi protecting its foundation. Otherwise, the influx of spiritual qi into his body now would definitely cause him to explode and die. At this very moment, Zhang Yi's entire body was filled with spiritual qi. He thus entered the process of absorbing spiritual qi. He cultivated in one go for 7 days, but it wasn't without results. Zhang Yi had finally cultivated to the first level of perfection. The distance to the second layer was just a step away. He could already compare with those who had a foundation at the peak in the comprehensive world, also equivalent to a first-generation saint master in the martial world of Great Xia. While thinking, Zhang Yi suddenly saw something. It was the sword he bought the other day. He had almost forgotten about it. He picked up the sword. Let me see what kind of spiritual qi is emitted from it. What exactly is it? As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Yi channeled spiritual power into the short sword. In just an instant, the scabbard suddenly cracked open. Then a strange creature jumped out from inside. Zhang Yi exclaimed in disbelief. It's a sword embryo. Moreover, it's a high-grade sword embryo. A sword embryo is the embryonic form of a flying sword. It also has many grades. But at this moment, it wanted to escape from Zhang Yi. Of course, he wouldn't give it that chance. He hurriedly chased after it. Very quickly, he caught the sword embryo in his palm. Zhang Yi, while channeling spiritual power into it, said with a happy laugh, I really didn't expect Earth to hide an immortal artifact like you. Even if a treasured sword from the comprehensive world were to appear now, it would be thoroughly outclassed. After all, this sword is only a crude flying sword embryo, unrefined. To cultivate a true flying sword, one still needs to collect the corresponding, refining materials. When I go to the martial world, Zhang Yi thought to himself, I must pay attention and see if there's anything suitable. Thinking this, he tucked it into his pocket. After finishing his business, he went down the mountain. As soon as he came down, he saw Feng Er practicing. She struck out a palm, carrying fire spiritual power. The large rock in front of her immediately shattered. Zhang Yi was secretly pleased. This girl indeed has decent talent. Furthermore, I've seen her fire attribute physique, which is very suitable for the 9 turns blood tempering art. Just a little practice, and she's already achieved such success. While he was thinking, Guoxiong noticed he had come out. He called out softly, Master Zhang, are you done resting? Nodding indifferently, Zhang Yi said calmly, Old Xia, it seems you've also broken through to the peak expert limit. Old Xia admitted without hesitation, my granddaughter and I were fortunate to be brought by Master Zhang to such a blessed, immortal grotto heaven, absorbing spiritual qi, and also had our cultivation methods revised by you. 2 days ago, we were able to reach this realm. Zhang Yi didn't mind. His people, the higher their cultivation, the better. He spoke up, suggesting, all right, prepare to leave. It's time for us to go back. However, at this moment, something suddenly appeared on the island, startling him. He turned to look at the sea surface and saw a figure rushing over. In his mouth, he was constantly yelling, "Bold thieves! How dare you trespass on my immortal island?" When the person got closer, Zhang, he saw clearly it was a burly man with a bushy beard, but a fierce hot aura radiated from around him. The burly man rushed madly towards the three of them. Seeing this, Feng exclaimed in disbelief, "This person can walk on water. Could he be an immortal from the island?" Very quickly, the person landed safely on the ground. Old Xia seemed to recognize him and exclaimed in disbelief, "Meng Nantian." Guo Xiong was not mistaken in his recognition. This person was indeed Meng Nantian, the master of the Meng family in Yinjing. Old Xia hurriedly reminded Master Zhang, "This Meng Nantian is also famous, one of the top experts in Yinjing. It's rumored his cultivation is close to the peak of the Grandmaster realm." Hearing these words, Zhang, he couldn't help but frown. He mused, "Peak of the Grandmaster realm, huh? But why is it always someone from Yinjing?" At this moment, Meng Nantian pointed at the three of them and questioned, "Where are you people from? Why did you trespass on my immortal island?" Old Xia hurriedly explained, "We just wanted to borrow this place rich in spiritual qi to cultivate for a few days. We hope, Senior." But before he could finish, he cut him off coldly, "Not allowed. This immortal island belongs to me alone." He told them they had 5 minutes to leave the island immediately. "Otherwise, I'll kill without mercy." Old Xia was in a bit of a predicament. Although Zhang Yi, with his boundless divine abilities, was here, but after all, the opponent was also an old peak grandmaster, not like Xiao Zhongtian. Comparing grandmaster realms, there was indeed a world of difference. He thought Zhang Yi had only reached the grandmaster level not long ago. "I'm afraid he's not a match for head of Meng family." However, at this moment, Zhang Yi suddenly spoke up, "I'll also give you 2 minutes. Leave the island immediately. Otherwise, I'll kill without mercy." After saying that, he even raised an eyebrow, his face full of provocation. Hearing these words, Old Meng frowned and muttered, "I've long heard rumors that a young grandmaster has appeared in the martial world. This person has deep connections with the Xia country. Could it be you?" Zhang, he nodded calmly. "It is I." He also didn't expect his name to have spread even to Yinjing. Seeing his insolent attitude, Meng Nantian immediately flew into a rage. He gritted his teeth and cursed, "Arrogant brat. Today I, this old man, must teach you a lesson." As soon as he finished speaking, he struck out with a claw technique. But before it could touch Zhang Yi, it was blocked by him. He casually struck his wrist, causing him to retreat. Meng Nantian's face was as ugly as if he'd stepped in dog dung. He exclaimed in disbelief, "Aren't you only at the early stage of the Grandmaster realm? How? At such a young age? How could it be?" Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow, looking at him contemptuously. He snorted coldly, "Displaying such anger towards me? Truly pathetic." These words made Meng Nantian's fury rise to its peak. He immediately unleashed his aura. A phantom image of a giant bear appeared. He roared fiercely, "Brat, you're seeking death yourself." Following the roar, the giant bear phantom struck towards Zhang. Unfortunately, it was blocked by a phoenix phantom. Not only that, Meng Nantian was sent flying, coughing up fresh blood. His body spun a few times and then slammed into an ancient tree behind him. He trembled and muttered, "This brat is truly formidable." Zhang Yi, at this moment, chuckled and said, "What I just said still stands. You have 2 minutes. Otherwise..." But before he could finish, Meng Nantian stood up. He pursed his lips and said, "Brat, I admit you are very strong." Saying that, he reached into his robe to take something out. This scene made the faces of Zhang Yi's group of 3 turn ugly. In Meng Nantian's hand at this moment, a magical artifact appeared. He said coldly, "Today will be your death anniversary." Zhang Yi, seeing the item in his hand, frowned slightly. He exclaimed, "A magical artifact?" Meng Nantian boasted smugly, "This is my biggest secret. This grinding stone fragment once ground an extraordinary old grandmaster into mincemeat and shattered bones. Unfortunately, it can only be activated once every half a year. Otherwise, the Meng family would have long surpassed the most capable people in this world." Saying that, he channeled spiritual power into it, making it fly into the air. He said in a deep voice, "Having the chance to die by this grinding stone is a great honor for you. It's just a pity that the world will henceforth lack someone who dares to defy the heavens. Like you, a future divine figure." Immediately after, Meng Nantian controlled it to rush towards Zhang Yi. He laughed triumphantly, "Brat, accept your death." Zhang Yi stood still, unmoving. In just an instant, A powerful beam of energy descended from the sky, enveloping his entire body. The grandfather and granddaughter of the Xia family retreated due to this immense power. Even if they wanted to help, they couldn't. A few seconds later, Meng Nanshan's laughter rang out again. He laughed smugly and said, "What a pity. I carelessly turned him into a pile of ashes. I had originally seen his extraordinary qualities. I even wanted to recruit him as a subordinate. But as soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Yi's voice suddenly came from behind him. Then I thank you in advance." Seeing him, Feng Er exclaimed joyfully, "Master Zhang, you're okay." Meng Nantian, on the other hand, couldn't believe his eyes. Zhang Yi sneered and said, "With such meager abilities, you think you can kill me?" His expression was extremely ugly at this moment. He said with a trembling voice, "My treasured grinding stone, even a grandmaster at the peak realm couldn't escape it. How did you?" Zhang Yi was too lazy to explain. He said coldly, "That thing of yours compared to my Bagua mirror, although both are magical artifacts. My Bagua mirror's power is much stronger." As soon as he finished speaking, he took the mirror out of his pocket. A lightning bolt immediately struck towards Meng Nantian. Not daring to be careless, he hurriedly raised the grinding stone to defend. However, just as he said, it was nothing compared to the Bagua mirror. The lightning bolt struck him. Immediately after, a ball of lightning enveloped Meng Nanshan's entire body. A moment later, it dissipated. His body, battered and bruised, fell to the ground. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Zhang Yi then slowly walked towards him. Even Feng Er spoke up, teasing, "Serves you right. Meng Nantian, who told you to dare fight Master Zhang for the Immortal Island?" Hearing these words, Meng Nantian snorted coldly. "If you want to kill me, then kill me. I, Meng Nantian, am definitely not a coward." Zhang Yi couldn't help but be surprised. This fellow has some backbone. Unlike that old devil from the Xiao family. Since he's from Yanjing, perhaps he can be of use. Thinking this, Zhang Yi then said thoughtfully, "Meng Nantian, I will give you a way out. Swear allegiance to me from now on, and I will spare your life." Hearing this, old Meng retorted, "You're just a child. You want me to be loyal to you? Dream on." Old Xia, beside them, spoke up to persuade Meng Nantian. "Master Zhang is sparing you because he values you." He warned, "If you want to oppose Zhang Yi, I'm afraid not only Meng Nantian, but the entire Meng family will suffer." After hearing this, Meng Nantian frowned. A hint of hesitation flickered in his eyes. After a long while, he felt that old Xia was perhaps right. Thinking of this, he suddenly rushed forward, startling Zhang Yi. But in the end, old Meng knelt on the ground and said resolutely, "I, on behalf of the Meng family in Yanjing, pledge loyalty to Master Zhang until death." Zhang Yi rubbed his chest in mock relief. Then he said, "All right, stand up." Meng Nantian dared not disobey. He hurriedly stood up and glared at old Xia. Zhang Yi didn't pay attention. He was observing his Bagua mirror. Perhaps its lifespan only has a few more uses left. He sighed helplessly. Then he tucked it in his pocket and said, "Let's go back." Old Xia, hearing he wanted to return, ran off to prepare the boat. A moment later, the four of them boarded the boat to return. With a trump card like Meng Nantian in hand, future matters in Yanjing would also be easier. Thinking this, Zhang Yi glanced at old Meng and said, "There's something I need to ask of you." He said, "When you return, help me. Keep an eye on one of the 10 major families in Yanjing, the Song family. See if their family has any dealings with strange individuals." After hearing this, Meng Nantian frowned, puzzled. The Song family? I wonder what business Master Zhang has with them.